Get the club to pop when I come up with the crop. Gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the club spot. Get the club to pop when I come up with the club spot. Get the club to pop when I come up with the club spot. Get the club to pop when I come up with the club spot. Get the club to pop when I come up with everybody. We do it. Everybody. We do it.
What is good, everybody? We are now at our first installment of the remote Trap Talk with MJ with our first guest, the one and only Brian Barczyk.
What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
Dude, it's good to be first, man. You know?
Can you believe
It's
this?
like I broke your cherry or something. You know what I
Would it be the first?
mean? Yeah, oh, okay.
Oh, man. Dude, Brian, this is, I mean, I'll never forget the first time meeting you. And, you know, like I said, you are somebody who never made me feel like, oh, man, maybe I'm like, either I'm not cool enough or like he doesn't know me enough. Like you are somebody who literally treated me like if you knew me for years from the very first time we met. And I feel like that's probably the biggest inspiration of what not only makes me want to stay in this industry for so long, but just like continue to go and do things with this podcast, meet you more often, go to shows. I'm just saying, man, huge inspiration on your part.
Well,
So
thanks
thank you
so much. I think that the hobby as a whole has to do a better job of being inclusive. You know,
Right. Mhm.
you know, so oftentimes we're like, you know, this bifurcated, like, you know, group of people that like, oh, you know, we're hanging out with our friends and you can't hang out with us or something. And I've always been the opposite. You know, I've always thought that the more people our hobby gets, the better the hobby actually is, you know. So but between me and you, I mean, we hit it off as friends right off the bat. So
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone, it's not like every person I meet I like, you know what I mean?
well, here's okay. Well, what the example I'm trying to make here is because, like, you know, like you said, when you come into an industry and you meet people, things could seem cliche, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, oh wow, like, you know, maybe I'm not as cool as I am because this, and that. But even at your facility here, man, like the way you treat your guests, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like your energy when you're talking to me makes me feel excited for talking to you. But then I see you carry that with like everyone else you talk to in the
It's,
Reptarium.
you know, for me, it's exciting, you know, to especially the Reptarium, you know, it's like, you know, you see people and they're just so excited to be here. And it's like, you think I always say, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like magical, right? It's like this magical place that people can do things that they can't really hardly do anywhere else. And that's my dream is to continue. And that's what pushes me every single day is not just like to provide what we provide now, but even in the future. And it's the same thing when you're selling a snake, right? To me, when I'm selling a snake, it's not like I'm just selling a snake. I'm hopefully, you know, someone's taking that animal and it's like becoming a huge part of their life. You know what I mean?
Long-term effect.
Yeah, it's like, you know, again, now most of the snakes we sell, not all of them, but most of them either go to pets, you know, and listen, you know, the thing that I was the most surprised about, dude, is that like people will buy $1,000 or $1,200 pet snake all the time.
First time too.
Yeah,
Like
first time stuff.
pet.
Absolutely. I mean, we had someone here this weekend that they had what was it? It was like a 5G. It was a really good animal, like a bamboo pastel vanilla. It was like, and it was the first time snake. You know, It's like just a pet, never interested in breeding. So my point is that you see that, or it's like the entry level, you know, person that's like, hey, I want to get into breeding. So we don't really work as much now on that like higher end, you know, investment trade animal type thing. So my point is that I'm hoping that even when we sell that animal, that we're creating an experience for people that are going to change their minds about reptiles. And that's just what gets me up in the morning, you know, and it's It's hard not to be excited about it, you know. As a matter of fact, this morning we had the cutest thing. It was this group of 15 kids. The birthday boy was 7, so I'm sure that they were all about 7-ish.
Right.
And there was 15 kids, a bunch of adults, and these boys were on fire. I mean, like just every cage they went to, they're like, oh my gosh. And it was funny because Jay and I, my camera guy, were sitting here as this whole thing was kind of going on, and we were saying just like to feed on that energy was crazy. It was just crazy.
You feed off of it too.
Oh my gosh,
it has an effect, you know.
And it really made the whole day good. Like, I mean, me and Jay were smiling ear to ear for hours, you know, just from that experience in the morning. So we're really lucky, and that's what, like I said, that's why I want to expand, and that's why I want to just continue. You know, I always say, and this is like, I don't want this to come off arrogant whatsoever, but it's like, I want to be like the Walt Disney of the animal world. You know what I mean? Like I want to create this like experience-based business where people can come and do things, whether it's, you know, hold a giant snake or hold an albino alligator or feed an alligator, or in the future swim with stingrays, and you know, things that you can do in some places, but never in one place.
Would you ever make a theme park out of it if you could?
You know, I doubt I would, but that would be awesome if I could.
Like, money was no issue, like, you know, whatever. Like, would you ever think a theme park with like the Reptarium would ever be something?
Yeah, I mean, if money wasn't an option, and I had, you know, if I had $100 million or something like that, yeah, I could see doing that. As a matter of fact, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Coyote Peterson was working on that in Vegas.
Wow.
I think he was working on like doing a theme park combination.
Okay.
And I think that he, you know, and I don't want to, you know, spill beans between what myself and him have talked about, but like he raised like 13 or 14 million dollars to do it.
Shit.
But he needed 100 million. so like he bought the land and everything, and then they needed to raise, and that's, you know, boy, I'm spilling the beans here on this one. That's why he ended up doing Animal Planet show.
Okay.
He was crushing it on YouTube, and he decided to do Animal Planets because the capital investors didn't get YouTube.
Right.
They're like, we're going to give this guy tens of millions of dollars, and he's like, YouTuber?
Right.
Like, if he was on TV, maybe we'd give you the money.
Right.
So that's why he did TV, hoping that would be successful, so that those capital investors would give him the money. So yeah, maybe one day, who knows? I mean, it's going to be a long time before I have $100 million, but maybe one day, you never know. Maybe I'll buy Bitcoin at the right price.
I need to introduce you to my boy Socrates. That's my Bitcoin coach. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, what is he saying?
He's telling me to just be ready. Like, meaning, like, you know, here's the thing with Bitcoin, right? Like, it's somebody will always tell you it's not time yet, or meaning like, dude, everything's going to shit. But that's why, you know, basically that's when you do it.
Yeah,
when everyone's, and you put it in without, like, you put it in with them telling you, like, it's gone. Like, I'm never going to see that money again. And then that's when 4 or 5 years, not don't get me wrong, there's a chance you'll never see that money again. But you don't look at it like, okay, I can't wait to get this money back in 2-3 years. Like, it's literally it's like a gamble like anything else, man.
It is a gamble. And I think you're right. When people are afraid of it is when you want to buy. When people think it's going to go to 100,000 a Bitcoin is when you want to sell.
Yeah, his brother invested in Bitcoin in 2012, and he has a shit ton of shares. Oof. The man is living very good. Yeah. Socrates he owns his own CrossFit gym, has probably one of the nicest arboreal private collections in the United States from what I've seen. But the guy just like he wants to just not work and just do animal stuff, you know. But like, you know, the guy's grinding. I respect him a lot. But yeah, man, the whole Bitcoin thing is another. You know, there's an approach you take to it, you know what I mean? And also trading and stuff like that. It gets really like confusing sometimes.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because it's not a normal security. It's very difficult because you don't have, you know, PEs, and you don't have, you know, you don't have your earnings, and you don't have, so you're it's like gold of the future, right?
Exactly.
You know exactly what it is. And so people don't understand that, number one, that it's a currency, you know, and it's a holding. It's a currency and a holding, which is a really different thing. There's never been that kind of dynamic, and it's because of the volatility, it becomes very difficult. But I've tipped my toe in a little bit, but it's a little scary.
It is scary.
If it ever drops down, you know, the baseline, like where they say it could dip to, where it's like if you be ready, it's about 23,000.
Exactly.
If it ever, right now it's in the 30s,
34, 36, I think.
34 to 30. It bounces up to 40, and then back down to 34. If it drops down to about 23, if it ever does, load up.
That's when you do it.
Because then you're gonna and hang on to it. May take 3-4 years.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's right. They called it the crypto winter back. Crypto winter. You stay through the crypto winter, and you can be rich on the other side.
And I will plug this real quick, guys. If you're out there, you're like, man, I would really like to learn more about Bitcoin and stuff. Crypto Banter on Instagram and YouTube. This guy right here has a YouTube channel and an Instagram account where he's constantly giving updates on the market and stuff like that. And you know, if you just want a better outlook on it, I would recommend following Crypto Banter. And he kind of puts things in a language where you can understand it. A lot of it's trading, which I'm not interested in trading. I want to just invest in a Bitcoin.
Buy and sit. Yeah.
Right on, man. So listen, Brian.
Everyone didn't come here to talk about cryptocurrency.
No. Actually, but listen, at the end of the day, like, okay, Brian, the biggest reason why I feel like so many people want to hear you talk is because you are somebody who has proven yourself to be in this industry as long as you have without either coming in, coming out. You know, you just have so many people who like, I'm gonna sell my shit, and then years down the road, well, I used to sell ball. You know, I ran ball pythons 2003. Now I'm back. You know what I mean? But you've stuck this shit out. Like it's a part of your life. And so many people want that, but then they don't understand how much comes with that, right? Yeah. But my question to you, Brian, is like, what's your, I guess not your opinion, but like, what's your maybe advice to people out there who are so gun ho about wanting to get into this with the business aspect, like right out the bat, like I want to make money off this. I want to breed. I want to be always evolving pythons or Aussie Boys or Justin Kabelka, Brian Barczyk. But like, you know, obviously it's excitement, right? But like, what do you think of that?
It's a tough thing, right? Because I mean, you know, first off, I usually give people advice that says, don't follow the money. You know, don't do it for the money, because the money comes when you don't do it for the money. Right. You know, there's that old saying, I'm sure you've heard of it, the best way to make a huge fortune, best way to make a small fortune in reptiles is to start with a huge fortune. Right. You know, I mean, that's really the always evolving platform, right? Was that he came in and he just threw a lot of money at it. And then he did it. And then he worked hard. Right. He did a great job of marketing himself. Miguel, of course, I'm kind of always evolving. Miguel did a great job of marketing himself, you know, learning how to breed ball pythons. But you got to remember, you know, it was funny, you know, JP is a little bit this way too, where, you know, like they created a name for themselves because JP threw a lot of money too, right? Yep. And they created a name for themselves before they even bred ball pythons. You know, they had never bred ball pythons. But at the same time, I was still a fan of both of those guys for what they did, because I thought that they were really putting a lot on the line. Yeah. And I was never a guy that was like, well, you can't call yourself a ball python breeder when you haven't bred a ball python. I'm like, well, if you invested $200,000, I'll call you a ball python breeder. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not creating rockets here. You know, you're going to breed ball pythons. If you don't breed ball pythons, then you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Type of thing. It doesn't mean every ball python is going to go every year, but my point is that you're going to have some success. So if you have a lot of money to throw at, you're going to be successful most of the time. Not all the time, because trust me, over the 35 years I've been doing this, I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of money. There were several huge whales. I mean, probably 20 huge whales that I can remember over the last 25, 30 years that threw, you know, close to $1 million at the ball python game and lost everything. Because they didn't have the heart. They didn't have what Miguel and Jordan have, where they're going to be in there cleaning and feeding and breeding and making sure they do things. They were just like, oh, well, if this long-haired tattooed guy can get rich, I'm a whatever. I'm going to throw $1 million at this. I'm going to take this business over. And you always saw those guys coming, and you always knew that they were going to exit. You know what I mean? So my advice is, number one, is typically don't get into it thinking you're going to make a lot of money, because it takes a long time to make a lot of money unless you have a bunch of money to throw at it. And don't chase projects. Like, work with the stuff that you really like. You know what I mean? Like, don't work with, you know, a type of, don't work with ball pythons if you don't like ball pythons. You know what I mean? Like, I had someone recently visit that was really into reptiles, and they were breeding a lot of stuff, and they were almost embarrassed to tell me that they bred ball pythons. They're like, yeah, you know, I had my first clutch of ball pythons, but it was almost like I was going to look at them and go, oh, you're a ball python, yeah, because it was all about like, well, I've got this, I've got these rare animals here, this here, and and by the way, I got my first ball python clutch. I mean, don't work with ball pythons if you don't want to. You know, work with the Alberts, work with green tree pythons, work with whatever. But you know, I think that there's no doubt that. Listen, I came from nothing, right? I was a really lower class family, single mom. Didn't have any money at all, and I was able, reptile breeding got me where I got, but I also did it for 30 years,
Right.
you know what I mean? And then I ultimately evolved from a reptile breeder to more of a business guy and learned how to invest the money and do things like, I think Ozzy has that great example. If you take 40 cents on every dollar you make and you invest into something tangible, 40 cents is a lot, by the way.
Right.
Most people would take maybe 10 cents on the dollar. But as a matter of fact, Bob Ashley once told me this, the promoter of the NARBC. He said what really excited him, not that everything's about money, but he said what really excited him is that back when he was in his 20s, he started taking 5 cents out of every dollar he made and investing in something that the bank would lend him money on. You know what I mean? So something that was tangible, you know, real estate, something that the bank would go, all right, I'll give you a note on this. So he said I was no longer excited about making the 95 cents. I was excited about the 5 cents.
Because that's the investment.
Right. And he saw that 5 cents grow into millions of dollars now. He's a multimillionaire. And that's, I think, sometimes, whereas I was a terrible businessman up until about 10 years ago, because every dollar I made and then some just was buying snakes.
Right.
Like I never invested in anything. I was just like, I could buy that snake and I could buy this, or I could buy these racks. And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Now, I mean, obviously investing yourself, even with the animals, is a huge part of the longevity of you staying in this game, right?
Yeah.
So what, to somebody out there who's like, man, how do I invest in myself? Like, what, give us some kind of advice on as far as like how people could invest in themselves versus just spending money elsewhere, you know?
Well, I think that, again, you know, when you pick projects that you might want to breed and sell, you know, just be wise, you know, like make the right decisions, number one. And then number two, I think that the other thing that people, if you look at the successful people in the reptile business, they've always been, you could go one of two ways. You can produce a lot of animals and wholesale them, or the more successful guys invest as much time, money, and effort into promoting their business and becoming a name in the business, becoming a trusted name. And the way you become a trusted name, although some people will laugh at me. Yes, sticker swap. Yeah, that's the way to go. It seems to be working for some people.
You're legit. You got a sticker. Send it to me.
Send it to you.
Oh,
no, it's great, man. I mean, I don't collect stickers, but I think it's cool when I see Billy's sticker collection. I'm like, that's awesome. I wish I would have thought of that, but now I'm so far behind. I'm like,
I will get, so Billy's that first fucking big platform breeder who literally accepted people's stickers and did put them on the wall and did make people feel good. I will give Billy that for sure, because I feel like that was the big push. And honestly, man, I'm not gonna lie, sticker swap is the best way to meet somebody. It's just a lot more than that. Like I feel like you can't just be like, man, what's the next design I could come up with when you don't have anything backing up what you're promoting, right? Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense, and I think it is cool. Like I said, I feel like I missed the boat on that particular that thing, but I think that, again, Billy's another great example. Like he did the whole quality in, quality out, and he talked about, you know, I mean, he created like a really a platform that people, you know, kind of, you know, directly thought correlated it with Billy, you know what I mean?
Right.
And these guys have done a good job of that. So again, if you look at, you know, Billy, Justin, Ozzy, Miguel, you know, Jordan, I mean, you go down the list, there's tons of them, Garrett DeMeyer. I mean, you know, it's always about like creating a brand, right? You know, the brand, and that brand has to have value, you know? So I think that, you know, like when people will say like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, or I want to start Instagram page, or how do I gain a following? My advice is always like, give value to your audience, right?
Yes.
Like if you're giving value, then you get loyalty, right? And whether that value is education, entertainment, you know, secret tips, you know, whatever that is, you're giving value. And all those guys I mentioned are really good at giving value.
Right.
You know, whether it's, you know, tips to breed snakes, or tips to invest, or tips to market, or whatever the case is.
Now, the people giving value are people who put in their reps, they put in their time. And I feel like people who want to give value haven't really put in their time yet, you know, and it's not everybody, don't get me wrong, but like I said, like poor JP, you know, I mean, even though JP put himself in that position, but like, you know, he got a little bit ahead of himself telling people how to breed ball pythons when he had not had one clutch yet, you know? And that's just one example. I always use JP as an example because that's the biggest one that stand out to me. And JP already made he got himself out of that hole a long time ago. But either way, I feel like, you know, a lot of people get caught into wanting to be, you know, somebody to give directions or maybe just to be a leader. But like, you know, even when you start a sport, or if you start something, like you don't start off as a leader. You know what I mean? You're a student.
No. I always say that, you know, you don't deserve respect. You earn respect.
You earn it every single time.
And I'd say that to people about me all the time. And like I said, it's always funny because I get beat up so much about this and that. But people that know me know that I'm always trying to earn people's respect. You know, now I make mistakes. You know, maybe my thumbnails piss people off sometimes, or whatever.
You don't clickbait, do you?
Listen, I'll be the first person that says. So listen, I think of clickbait in two ways, right? I think you can lie to people, clickbait. I don't do that, but I also think that sensational titles and thumbnails. And it was funny because I saw Justin, who I love to death, by the way.
Right.
And I've got to be careful because I told a story about Ken and Harkin the other day on a podcast. And I hardly ever do anyone's podcast. I think this is the second podcast I've done that isn't my podcast in like years.
Right.
And but Derek Reptiles, I did his podcast because Lori was on it and she talked me into it and stuff like that. And he's a great guy, by the way. We had a really good time. But I told a story about Ken and one of his thumbnails, and someone fucking took it out of context and sent him saying, Brian called you a liar.
Oh, God.
You know, so I'm saying, let me preference by Justin, who I love to death, and I would never talk bad about him. He did a thumbnail that I chuckled at today. Did you see his thumbnail?
No, which one was it?
It was something like how it feels like to get bit by a snake or something like that.
It's on his YouTube channel?
It's on his YouTube channel. You want to pull it up?
Yeah, let's share it real quick.
And I love Justin. I mean, please please everyone don't send Justin things saying Brian's throwing some tea on Justin, because I'm not. I swear, I promise you.
All right, so let's see. And then guys, real quick, we're gonna answer any questions in like the next 15 minutes or so. So if there's if there's anything you guys want to ask Brian or have a question about the session, just go ahead and ask Matt. Matt's in controlling all the super chats right now. But yeah, let's pull up Justin Kubelka real quick. Oops. All right.
It's great. See, there it is, right
here.
Ball python bites. Look at the thumbnail, though.
Look at this guy.
That's a Barczyk thumbnail right there.
Oh,
he stole my thumbnail. He stole my thumbnail.
And dude, this don't even look like Justin. Like, he looks like he's going ham.
Yeah, right?
All right.
See, he stole my thumbnail.
Ball python bites, even though he's biting the ball python.
Yeah, it's
so
a little bit
that's
opposite.
super thumbnail bite right there.
Yeah, right. That's
hey.
But my point is that, people that say, Brian clickbaits or Brian, eventually they usually do it too, because they realize that's how you get views, right? And
Brian Cusco.
You always start off. Brian used to beat me up all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Brian beat me up all the time about clickbait. And my point is that if your content is great, who gives a shit if your thumbnail is a little bit edgy? You know what I mean?
Right.
Now that's not to say that I don't sometimes step over the line, and when I do step over the line, I own that, right? But I try not to step over the line, But I just thought that the Justin thing was funny because I was like, yes. Finally, the cleanest guy in the business. He did a Brian Barczyk thumbnail.
It's funny, and shout out to Cusco. That's my boy. I love him. But it's funny we bring up Cusco because I remember Cusco not really saying anything about thumbnails, but he was just more like, your thumbnail clickbait's, little much, right? And then a month later, Brian, what do you come up with? A title says, "If I die tomorrow, ... And it's and then there's another one where he was at a show and there was this tick around this guy's neck and it looked like the dude was getting choked out, but it really wasn't. So at the end of the day, you're right. People are going to eventually want to beef up the thumbnail.
Yeah. And what happens is when you start YouTube, you have these best intentions, like, oh, I don't care about views, and I don't care. And then at some point you're like, I'm working my ass off here, and if I can just maybe sensationalize this title, I'm going to get twice the views.
Why not?
Of course you're going to do it. And so, like I said, but I have to be careful because I want people to think that I love Justin. I'm actually going to visit Justin in a few weeks. So please, Justin, I'm sorry if I called you out. I didn't mean it. You're amazing. Your stand-up comedy is great.
Awesome.
You're handsome. You're so
hell of a marketer, by the way.
Yeah, hell of a marketer. You're one for the ages, baby.
Yeah. I mean, dude, Justin, I'll tell you, man, just like you, Justin has showed me the utmost respect from the beginning. Always gave me the time of day. It's funny because I got to sit down with him at Schaumburg. We did a little quick interview. Mm-hmm. And 3 years ago, I met him at Pomona, and I was really nervous to go say hi to him, man. And, because it's Justin Kubelka. Justin, Miguel were the first big people who are okay, these guys are something I need to look up to and follow. But anyways, see Justin at the show on his way to the bathroom. This is 2018. I'm like, Justin, can I please talk to you? I mean, I'm trying to do YouTube and I want to just talk to you 15 minutes. Yeah, sure, man. No problem. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I was like, this guy's giving me so much information. Mm-hmm. So at the end, I go, Justin, thank you so much, man. I'll catch you at the table. All right, no problem. He walks away. I turn around. It was never recording. Yeah. So I missed the whole thing with Justin. And as I checked, Justin's almost at at the bathroom. I'm like, Justin, I didn't get it. And he was like, I was like, dude, we'll do it again, no, like some other time. So either way, like here we are.
So the way I heard that story is that you said that the interview wasn't good enough, so you never posted it. That's what I heard. I heard that. That's it. That's like
cap. That's not, no, dude, no. I was so embarrassed because I didn't want, like, because I was like, dude, I just lost my one chance, which I thought at the time, the one opportunity to get this interview with Justin. And when I found out I didn't record, I'm like, you got to tell him, even if he's going to say no. But like,
yeah,
you know, either way. But like I said,
that
man,
does suck though. I've done that before, double punch stuff. So yeah.
But what really made it feel good was yesterday, you know, sitting down with him and bringing that up, which he remembered, and you know, the guy is just a wealth of knowledge, man. And
he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude,
and he's all about passing it down. And I feel like, Brian, you know, that's one thing that, you know, in the beginning, you know, I don't want to talk about how like, oh, I got all these negative experiences in the beginning, but in the beginning, I feel like information was just not accurate. It didn't want to get given out. Miguel was the actual first person to tell me, yeah, snakes don't eat after they ovulate, day 52 and stuff like that, right? Wow. So, but what is it, you know, and I don't want to say this was just an old school mentality, but what is it about information not being so available and like so easy to get prior social media? Like, what do you think it was? Do you think people just didn't want to see other people be successful? Or like, what do you think the gap was with that?
I don't know. I think, you know, again, being pre-internet, for me, it seemed like information was easier to get in a way. Now, you couldn't punch it up on your Google machine, but you could certainly, like, all the people coming up in the community. And again, now, you know, I'm going back to the early 90s when I got into it. So maybe it was a little bit different, maybe just pre-internet in the late 90s, early 2000s. But, you know, back then people were super willing to share everything. I could get them on the phone and they would like, you know, I talked for hours with Lloyd Lemke and Mark Bell and you know, you name it, Gary Sipperly and the list goes on and on. I could call them up and they would tell me everything. I mean, like, I learned everything I know about snake breeding from all the old timers, and they were, and I was just like, you gotta remember, like at that time, pretty much everyone that was a breeder in the hobby was in their mid to late 30s, maybe, or whatever. I was a 18-year-old kid, you know,
which was rare back then, right?
Was super rare back then. I was known as the youngest kid in the hobby, as far as like that wanted to be like in the business side, and they shared so well with me. It seemed to me like maybe at some point when the internet came into it, it's like, you know, and it still happens to this day, I think, and I've heard this from millions of people, not millions, but lots and lots of people, that, you know, you go on a Facebook group or something and you ask like, why is my ball python shedding this way? It's like, you should know a ball python. You don't even know what the fuck you're doing. Get out, you know. So Classic. It seems to me like almost like the information is worse now. You know, it's more readily available, but there's also 20 different, you know, versions of the truth. And so that's just my opinion. It's like, I think it's gotten harder to get information, not easier, at least from my standpoint. And then there's, you know, the other thing is that, you know, when money gets involved, it gets really weird, right? You know, because like, why is this guy going to want this guy to do well? Because he's going to take money off his table, right? He's not going to eat, you know? And so that, at least that's really what happened when I was like still really in the game. You know what I mean? Now you got to remember, I'm kind of out of the game, even though we're producing, you know, again, thousands of animals. I mean, we're producing, you know, a few thousand colubrids a year, and I'll produce, you know, probably 1,700 ball pythons this year or something like that. Wow. You know, so it's not like I'm not in the game, you know, but I just don't play the game of the investment. I go to shows. I don't compete with other people. I'm on my own island, right? You know, but when I was in the game, it was really vitriolic. As a matter of fact, I truly believe the majority of like the hate that kind of came about because of my competitors.
Yes.
I was such the gold standard at the time, where everyone wanted to do business with BHB, that they had to almost like knock me down to compete with me, you know? And that's ultimately what really, and they did me a huge favor, to be honest with you, as weird as it sounds, because it gave me an opportunity to step back and say, all right, I better not go in this direction. I better go in a different direction.
That forced you to do your own thing, basically.
It forced me to do a different, do 180 degrees. And now, because of that 180 degrees, I still breed animals. I still work with animals, but now I love my life 10 times more.
Right. It's funny how that works out.
It is funny how,
because I'm sure at that time, as you were like, "Fuck, I got to dip out," it was probably scary at that time. Right?
It was the hard. You know, you got to remember, my whole adult life, I did one thing: breed snakes. That was it. I had no other income streams, no investments. I was all in on one thing, you know. And so to change that, it was, and not to mention, you know, this goes back to 2009. You know, we had like the 3rd largest collection in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and to all of a sudden go from like, I'm Brian, the guy with the third largest collection of snakes in the world, to being like, all right, now I'm just another guy that has, you know, a couple thousand snakes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of us that have a couple thousand snakes.
Right.
That's a hard pill to swallow, you know what I mean? But you have to set your ego aside and you say, okay, I'm moving that. And at the time, it was a terribly difficult thing, terribly difficult. I mean, it was like, I mean, probably for a year, I was like really struggling. And then, but once I actually did it and it was done and I sold my other building and moved into this place, which was much smaller. Again, at the time, I only had one of the 3 bays. All of a sudden it was like, wow, life is awesome. And the difference is that like now I know every animal, right? Like before when I was super huge, there'd be animals I'd be like, I didn't even know I had.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you know, because I have someone taking care of that colony, and all of a sudden I'd walk in, I'd be like, oh, I'd be like, wow, this is cool. When did we get this? And they're like, oh, we got that 6 months ago. I'm like, what? I didn't even know. You know, now it's like every single snake in my collection, I know everything about them. I mean, I'll be like, yeah, this snake laid 8 eggs last year.
Unless Lori pulls something out of her pocket, right? Because I think last time I was here, something got shipped, like a piece of mail, but there was like a bug in it or something. Oh no, what was it? It was
what was that?
It was something. It was like an insect. It was something weird. And I was like, "What is what?" And she just started putting it away somewhere. And you're like, "What the hell? What is this?"
That is weird. I think. Oh, it was a millipede.
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 Yes,
it was a millipede. Yeah, and you're right. That blew me away. I'm like, Lori bought a millipede.
Came in a regular brown box, like not even like live animal. It was just like a regular brown box.
Yeah, it was like mail. They just mailed us millipedes. But Lori wanted them because she knew that they were really, you know, we had an African millipede that passed away, and the kids loved it. So she was like, when she had an opportunity to buy it, she didn't even tell me. I'm like,
right.
What'd you do with my wife? Yeah. But no, it's but yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason. And the path I'm on now is definitely by far the most rewarding path I've ever had in my life.
Now, you know, with COVID just passing through and stuff like that, which, you know, COVID was difficult for you, right? I mean,
it was really bad.
Hit like
mentally bad.
And I'm sure a lot of people went through it, but like you specifically went through a hard time.
Yeah,
you know, Jay was there for you. You kind of get you out of the rut. Do you feel like the podcast helped you a lot with that, or like what do you think it was?
Everything. You know, listen. You know, I tell people all the time, like the daily vlog, the podcast, everything I did got me through those times, because if it wasn't for them, I would have not gotten out of bed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I didn't have to do something, I mean, I was mentally wrecked, you know, and I still am, you know, I still have my times, you know, like I'm not 100%, like I'm not back to my old self, and like, you know, I'm close.
Right.
And there are days that I'm 100%. And there's, you know, I just went through a period of about like 3 weeks where I felt great every single day. Every day for 3 weeks, you know, and then I went through an 8-day stretch where I didn't feel good at all for 8 days. And now just the last couple of days, I'm starting to feel better again, like more myself again. And that's the kind of cycle that happens when you're going through, you know, the anxiety or depression. I don't personally deal with depression, but it's the same type of thing with anxiety. But yeah, no, COVID was rough, dude. I was fucked. I mean, you're like you said, Jay held my hand. Let me put it this way, dude. I don't remember. So let me tell you, I have a memory like no one understands. Like I remember to when I was like 18 months old, and everything since. Everything. I don't remember last year. Like it like didn't happen.
A blur. But you still remember stuff back in the day.
I remember everything from before, but I remember going into my COVID / anxiety fog, and I remember bits and pieces. Like it was 12, 13 months, and I remember like little people. Like I don't remember Christmas. I don't remember anything about Christmas. I don't remember my birthday. I don't remember Thanksgiving.
Christmas
I don't remember
is a big holiday.
I don't remember 4th of July last year. Like, I mean, like, I don't even, if you said, what did you do on the 4th of July last year? I have no idea. Don't know. Can't remember it. You know, and like I said, I have a sick memory. I mean, Lori hates me because like, I'll remember like what she ate when we were in Las Vegas on the 3rd day at the Bellagio. You know, I'll be like, yeah, you got the, this, and she's like, wow, that was 20 years ago, you know? And so that just tells you how mentally messed up I was.
Shit. Now, I mean, how are you at now? I mean, I know you said it's, you know, it comes and goes at this point, but like, are you doing a lot better now? You feel like you have a better grasp on it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting there. It's a work in progress. I'm, like I said, if I were going to quantify, I would say I'm 87 to 90%, you know? So I've still got 10% to go. And that's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of mindfulness, gratefulness, working very hard. I always talk about, like, you know, when it comes to mental health, And by the way, we can take questions too if they
Yeah,
have
we'll do it
anything.
after this.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
know that people super chat. And they're like,
You're
it's
good,
been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll ramble. Trust me. I mean, you'll be like, oh shit, man. There's an hour later.
Yeah.
But I tell people, like we don't think second to like, when we're a little bit overweight or something like that to go on a diet and go to the gym.
Right.
But we don't think about going on to the mental gym. Right.
Which is just as important.
It's just as important.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do every day is I do the mental gym, through mindfulness, gratefulness, meditation, so on like that. So I'm getting there and I will be better than ever. You know what I mean? Like when I'm done with this, and I'm close to the end, I'm going to be great.
Good. Awesome. Now, let me ask you this, Brian, because if it's one thing I paid attention to, because I watched your vlogs, like when you were expressing what you're going through and stuff like that, there were so many people relating to your what you're going through, like obviously depression and anxiety is it's a spread all through the United States, especially after COVID. But a lot of people don't have a Jay. A lot of people don't have somebody to maybe pull them out of the rut, but they're in a fucked position. Yeah. What's your advice to anyone out there who's just can't get out of it and really can't really rely on anyone to get them out of it?
So the biggest advice I'd ever give to anyone that is either in depression or anxiety, and again, I haven't had depression, but I know it's bedfellows with anxiety, right? Is don't swim in it. Right. And what that basically just means is that if you're like, I don't want to get out of bed today because I'm depressed, or I don't want to go outside because I'm anxious, go outside, get out of bed. That's how you get past it. You will never get. So when I hear someone that's like, I've had really bad anxiety for 15 years, I feel, first off, I feel empathy for them. I'm like, I feel so bad because I have it for a year and it's like literally every day you want to die. But then I think the other thing is like, then you haven't done much in 15 years. Like you haven't tried to get past this in 15 years, right? You have to work hard at it. And that's one of the things Jay told me. He said, I've never seen anyone work harder at I was going to therapy 4 days a week. I was going to an energy coach doing this weird energy thing that I don't know if it worked or not, but I was doing it once a week. I was going to a massage therapist once a week. I mean, I was like spending as much time on mental health as I was on the vlog or animals, because I mean, none of that other stuff mattered if I was mentally screwed. So my advice is, yes, Jay helped me. Lori obviously was a great thing, but again, Lori doesn't understand, right? Like she doesn't get it. She's like, you look normal. You can't go to a doctor. What do you mean that you can't mentally? Like I'm not, MJ, I couldn't have read this bottle back last June because I couldn't have made sense of what that meant. Like my mind was so messed up, I couldn't literally read purified water.
Wow. Like
I would look at the words and it would just be like words. So it's difficult for people to understand how bad it can get. But you have to move forward. And I think the one thing that why I talked about it in the vlog and why I'm glad you brought it up and we're talking about it in the podcast is that I want to also be that inspiration, not just for people that like live your dreams, make money, do what you love, build things that no one thinks you can do, all that stuff. But I also want them to say like, hey, I've got anxiety, I got depression, and so did Brian. And look at, he got over it. And during that period when I was so anxious, I like remodeled the bathroom. I built this entire podcast room. I built the whole basement out. I did like a bunch of expansion stuff at the Reptarium. And during that time, like it's funny because I remodeled the bathroom at BHB. Again, looks pretty decent. I don't know if you've seen it. It looks all right. It's nice, tile all over, stuff like that. I don't remember doing it. Wow. Don't remember even doing it.
Shit.
But I did it, right? I didn't sit back and just let it swim in it, right?
Right. Yeah. Crazy. Got any questions that we want to go through?
We've got super chats. First one, Balls of Paradise. I had a great time when I came to visit the Reptarium. Great stuff, MJ. Thanks, Brian. Hope to meet you one day.
Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thanks.
I hope you come back, man. Seriously, I'm here most of the time. There's less MJs in town. Then we're out at dinner, and I miss everybody. But I try to be here like 90% of the time. So please come back. I'd love to meet you.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate you being a Patreon member too, bro.
Yeah, thanks.
Rare
man.
Dog, most awesome guest ever. Love listening to Brian Barczyk. Thanks for having us as a guest.
Rare Dog's great, man. I appreciate you, Rare Dog. Thank you so much, man.
100%.
Amber Jones, happy Father's Day, guys. Brian, MJ, much love.
Much love to you. Happy
love,
Father's
Amber.
Day.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, everybody out
Yeah,
there, man.
everyone out
For
there.
real, you guys are amazing, man. Any dad out there, creating a good example for their kids is that's much respect over there.
Yeah,
So,
got a chance to go out to dinner with Noah, my son, and
Yeah.
hang out with him. So it's we spent quite a bit of time together today. So that's all I really wanted. I'll see my daughter sometime this week, which will be great.
Cool.
And Brandon Howe, so glad to have made it on the live stream. Big respect to Brian and MJ, as always. Thanks for amazing content.
Thank you so much, man. We
Respect,
appreciate you, man.
respect.
First question from Harry at Cascade Critters.
Harry.
Harry,
Does Brian have any tips on holdbacks? How does he decide what to hold back and what to sell?
Good question. man.
whatever I can sneak past Lori, it's what you hold back. Every single animal, doesn't matter what
Lori.
genetic is. If you can sneak it by Lori, you hold it back. No, I think that we were just talking about that at dinner, actually, how it's important to decide what to keep back or buy as it is to what to sell, you know? So, and this is, I explained to MJ, and this actually was not my iteration of business, but it was something I heard from Jeff Bezos. And it basically said that you should always be thinking 3 to 5 years in the future. You shouldn't be worrying about 2021's production.
Right.
You should be worrying about 2024, 2025's production. So think about that when you're thinking about your holdbacks. Think back, and Justin Kubellic, I think, is the best in the business. Maybe Ozzy as well is really, really great in the business. So I think those two guys, and this is no disparaging thing to other people in the business, but I think Ozzy and Justin have really set a standard that is not been met by anybody else. And that's what to hold back, you know, not for next year, not for the following year, but for 5 years from now. And you know, listen, when you look at Ozzy, for instance, his vision with the Orange Dream that started probably 15 years ago. 15 years ago, he was thinking about this, where he's at right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with Justin. So many of his projects he started literally 10, 12 years ago, and now they're just coming to fruition. And so think that way. You know, and as long as you're thinking that, don't think about next year, oh, I can replace this male with this male. Think about, I can replace this male with this male because I want to produce this male that I can produce 3 years from now to produce that male and ultimately produce what I ultimately want to produce.
That's a really, really good point.
Next question from Ball Reputation. Last year was my first year of breeding full time. I reinvested about 50% of what I made back into the business. Is that a good number to build off of?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think 50% is probably about right. We talked about that at dinner as well. You know, if you made $100 grand, you pretty much have to invest 40 to 50,000 to continue to make $100 grand. You know, and if you don't put 40 to 50 in, your 100 grand is going to turn to 70, it's going to turn to 30, it's going to turn to 20, and you're going to eventually be out of business. So unfortunately, you know, make sure you're still eating. You know what I mean? Take money off the table for yourself. Maybe take a little money. I think personally, I know Ozzy talks about this. Try to take at least something. If it's 5% or 10%, take it off the table and invest in something completely unrelated to reptiles. You know, whether it's real estate, stocks, IRAs, 401k, whatever you've got going on. Obviously, if you're self-employed, you could be in a 401k if you want. You know, if you have a company. But I think that's smart. You know, start building for the future too. You know, but yeah, I think 40 to 50% is about where you need to be.
Right. Awesome. All right. So that being said, man, because I can tell you the biggest hype with content right now is breeders coming out talking about the business side of things, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that could, you know, not that it's misleading, but
Yeah.
not a lot of people have that business mindset. Like you got it. It's like almost being able to keep animals. Everyone loves animals, but not everyone should keep animals because they just don't get it, right? Do you feel like that's the same thing with business? Like, even though people love animals and they want to be an Ozzy Boyd's, you know, Brian Barczyk and whatnot, but maybe they just don't have that business side of it.
It's tough, man. I tell you, I'll be honest with you. You know, I was until 2009. So you figure I started my business in 1989.
Shit.
And in 2009, it's 20 years later, that was my only income stream, right? It was just one income stream. And I really didn't even have stocks or any, well, I had very little stocks. I mean, actually, that was another tragic story that Casey Lazick talked me into investing $40,000 into a stock thing that went down to about $4,000.
Oh, shit.
So that was my early days of stock investing. Now, of course, I'm much more attuned at what to do with my my holdings. But my point is that I was a pretty terrible business person. I'm not going to lie to you. Those were the heydays, you know, because you're making so much money because pinstripes were $25,000, cinnamons were $15,000, yellow bellies were $10,000. I mean, money was just coming in. So like it's almost like like when the stock market has been exploding this last 6 or 7 months, you can almost take a dart and throw it at a stock and you're going to make 30%. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of how the market was. When the market got bad and there was almost like a crash in 2009, 2010. And what happened was, of course, in 2008, the economy fell out. We had the housing crisis with the subprime mortgage crash. And then shortly thereafter, about a year after, the reptile market, things that were selling for $10,000 all of a sudden went down to like $1,000.
Shit.
Now I have this huge building. I wake up, June 1st and June 30th, I have to make $60,000 to be broke. Right. You know what I mean? So now that, when you're selling $10,000 snakes, it's not very hard to come up with a $60,000 nut. Right. But now when you got a $1,000 snake or a $500 snake or $200 snakes, you got to sell a lot of snakes just to make that nut. Right. And it became really difficult. So my point is that I was a terrible businessman, really, when I look back on those years, even though maybe I thought I was a decent businessman. I wasn't. I was horrible. I just was in a business that had a lot of cash flow. Right. But when I really hit hard times and almost lost everything and had to restructure my whole life in business, that's when I learned business. That's when I learned how to be a businessman. And the only thing I think that's a little bit concerning is that, like for some reason, it's a really tricky thing, right? When you're talking about money and animals. People get weird about that, man.
It's touchy.
It's a really touchy thing. Like, all he cares about is the money. He doesn't care about anything but the money.
Views, likes.
Yeah. But the fact is you can be both. You can love your animals and you can love trying to provide money for your family.
Right.
There's no reason that now if you put money over the animals or you put money over the care or husbandry, and that's the one thing that you can ask any crew I've had ever. Not just the crew I have now. The one thing they can never say about me is that if they came to me and said, Brian, we need to spend money on this, or we need more rats, or I would go out without food for my family to provide for my animals, right? And so it was never about money for me ever. But of course, I love being in a position where I'm making great money in other things, not just the reptile breeding side.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the reptile breeding side is not making a lot of money compared to most of my other businesses. But there's just a tricky thing about that. But I think that, listening to business is good, right? You know what I mean? Like people that have been successful use their advice, I mean, I follow Elon Musk and I follow, you name it. I mean, everybody that's successful in the world, I'm like listening to everything they say I guess that's the other thing that I try to say, MJ, is that try to take real life scenarios that aren't reptile related and apply them to your reptile business. Right. You know what I mean? Like when you have a guy that is uber successful in a business that has nothing to do with animals, why not use his mentality and apply that to the animal business? As long as it's good for the animals, you know what I mean? And that's really what I've really tried to do.
I feel like the biggest, one thing I learned in the gym industry was like business maturity, right? Because like you don't really understand business until you become mature enough. Like, like you got to want to think about those ins and outs. But I didn't start learning that until I became an owner of something. Like when I started taking ownership of something, that's when my mind became interested in the business. But it really didn't really blossom. Because like I said, even the gym industry, I sold a shit ton of personal training. Like that was my money. I owned like probably 20% equity, but like the owner was taking almost everything. So, my drive was just to sell as much as I can that day. It wasn't 3-5 years down the road mentality until I got into the snakes. Because I understood that, Ozzy, Justin have been sitting on projects that they invested in years ago. Like I already knew that. Like I had never had the mentality thinking I'm going to buy this snake and in 2 years, I'm going to create something that nobody's created before. And I'm going to be on the news. You know what I mean? It's not feasible. Like it's not practical. I mean, nobody even says just because you're working with animals means you can make a living off of it.
No. And most people won't. I mean, the harsh reality is most people fail.
Right.
That's the harsh reality. I know people don't like to hear that.
Within how many you said this at dinner, within how many years do 90% of people just don't?
90% of people will fail the first 2 years.
Wow.
The first 2 years. And it's a failure for a number of things. It's maybe they try to cut corners and buy stuff they shouldn't buy, like, so-and-so selling an adult, blah, 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 blah. And they don't realize, well, why are they selling that adult? You know what I mean? Maybe it's because it's a bad animal or it's got a respiratory or it's got this or that. So that's one way they fail. Another way they fail is like they realize like, wait a second, on Friday night, I can't go out to the bar with my friends. I've got to be cleaning snakes. you know, and then they go out to the bar with their friends. Now your snakes don't produce. Listen, the amount of energy you put into a reptile is the amount of production you're going to get out of a reptile, period.
Yep.
If you cut corners and you decide, you know, I just don't want to feed this week, you might as well just sell your shit because you ain't producing. You know what I mean? Calories in, production out, period. And then, you know, like I'll give you an example. You know, I bred all of our snakes, colubrids and everything else for most of my career. And then for a couple years, I wasn't doing the actual breeding. I was doing like, I would set up with groups and I would talk to my employees about, got to do this, got to do that. And we dipped for about a 3-year period when I wasn't breeding. We dipped down to about a 55 to 60% production.
Wow.
Right in that range. Now that I've taken it back over where I'm 100%, I do all the feeding, I do all the breeding, I do everything on the, you know, I do all the ultrasounding, everything like that. Since I've done that, we've been between 90 and 93% production.
Shit.
So, I mean, that's a huge jump, but that's just because I decided to get back into the thing where I'm doing the work. And that's why people fail is that, listen, the one thing I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not a lot of things I'm not. But the one thing I am is I will outwork anybody, right? Anybody. You know, and so when I put my mind to like, I'm going to produce ball pythons, or I'm going to produce children's pythons, or I'm going to produce colubrids, and we work hard at it. And Lori's the same way. She's a bulldog. I mean, Lori's incredible. When we put our mind to it, it's like, that's when you go, and that's why people mainly fail. It's because they just don't want to dedicate what it means. Listen, Christmas morning, I don't know what I did, but I guarantee you I was here. Right? You know, I don't remember Christmas, but I guarantee you I was at this building that, you know, because every holiday I'm here.
Right.
Every holiday, you know, because the crew's off, so I'm here.
Right.
You know, and that's it. Snakes don't know it's a Christmas.
It's your place.
Yeah, snakes don't know it's Christmas. You know, so you got to do it, right?
Yeah. Now, and that's the thing, man. Like, you shouldn't have to put much effort into wanting to take care of a snake short. Like, it becomes of a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, to go back to the gym industry, man, like I was brought up in sales, like #1 salesman at Verizon. Never wanted to become a manager because I made more than my manager, right? But then that got old. Like, I wasn't really living a good life, you know. But then going into the gym industry is when I learned, like, okay, listen, it's more than just sales. Like, if I see a fucking towel on the floor, I'm gonna pick it up. Like, I'm gonna start cleaning the shit out of this place, like it's mine.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know what it was, but literally that right there helped my sales. Like, I became good at selling personal training just because, like, I walked in that place like it was 100% mine.
That ownership.
And he always acts as if.
I talk to my crew about that all the time. You know, I want someone that has the right. I will take someone with the right attitude over aptitude any day.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't care how smart you are about reptiles. If you have a shitty attitude, I don't want you in my crew. You know, period.
Right.
And that's, you know, again, I'm a big Elon Musk fan. He talks about it. It's like, he doesn't care if you have a degree. You know what I mean? He doesn't care what your paperwork says. He wants to know what you are as a person. Steve Jobs was the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he hired people, another guy that I admired tremendously. You know, he hired people on attitude. I want someone that's going to want to say, hey, this is, and that's why Jay, not my camera guy, although Jay's great too, my camera guy, certainly, he's the same way. He takes ownership and he takes pride. When our numbers are down, it bothers him. But, you know, Jay, the edutainer, which is our lead educator at the Reptarium, he's like he owns the place.
I love that kid's attitude.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, it's like literally
Shout out to Jay, man, and both Jays. Don't get me wrong, I love big homie Jay.
Yeah.
But even little homie Jay, man.
Yeah.
I met him when you first hired him, and you're like, this kid is good. Like, you were talking about how his energy was on point, and it hasn't dropped. And that was almost a year ago.
Yeah, he's been with
us.
And
he's the same level.
Yeah, he comes in every day excited. He can't wait to work with animals. He can't wait to educate people. And that's what I'm saying. That's the type of stuff. And it is contagious as well, right? When you have a bunch of people that are super high energy, super positive, and it go the other way. When you have people that hate their job and they hate being where they're at, everyone hates their job, you know? And that's another piece of advice. If you ever get into reptiles and do hire people, make sure you're hiring the right people, you know, because if you have people that are
that's a lot easier said than done.
Oh, it's so hard, man. It's so hard. Easier for the Reptarium because the Reptarium, well, you know, listen, when people think of working with animals, they think of the Reptarium. They don't think about cleaning tubs, scraping. Yeah, they don't think about that. That's not that fun. You know, Jay, the edutainer, worked with us for a few months scrubbing tubs.
Right.
He hated it.
Right.
You know, I mean, he still was smiling. He was still in a good mood every day. That wasn't his gig at all,
Right.
man. You know what I mean? But you moved him over to this thing, and he flourished. You know.
And I'm sure he handled the grunt work.
Yeah.
And that's one thing the other gym, the gym industry taught me is learn to love the grunt work.
Yeah.
And it's one thing that was, man, I talk about this all the time. And Matt, you've heard this, but like when I used to breed rats, that was the hardest fucking shit I've ever done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like literally, I didn't even think of my snakes because I was like, fuck, it's Sunday, dude. Now I got to do 4 hours. And the rats, I'm super OCD. And here's another reason, and not to be conceited or anything, but I feel like I'm really meant to work with snakes because how clean I am. Like I will never miss a rat day ever because I know the stench and I just rather not have my room smell like that. But because of that, like, man, it was just like, look, you just got off work. It's 9:30 at night. It's Sunday. You have to fucking do those rats. Yeah. I would get out of. There's even been times where I'm like, you'll do it tomorrow, and I couldn't sleep because it's in my mind.
Like, gotta do it, man.
And like you should want that. Like that's when you know you're really. That's the process.
Yeah, you gotta love the process. If you stop loving the process, you're not gonna do it because everyone loves like, oh my gosh, I just hatched a snake.
Oh,
but the truth is, what's amazing is having a piece of paper and writing down what male and female is going to go together and then moving the cages and seeing the groups actually become like, oh my gosh, now I got this male to these 5 females or these 4 females. And then you see the first copulation. And then you see the females starting to eat more aggressively because of the copulation. Then you see 13 millimeter follicles. And then you see 18 millimeter follicles. And then you see an ovulation. Then you see a prelay shed. Then you see an actual ovipositioning and you get a clutch of eggs. And then you put those eggs in the egg box and you put them in the incubator. And then 57 days later, you cut them or whatever. If you don't cut them, they're going to pip out. That's the process.
Right.
The end result is awesome because you get baby snakes. But the truth is that process. I can't wait in that mid-November mornings to come into work and see what males are breeding. That's like one of my favorite things. And I'm not getting any babies. I mean, they might breed and never even produce, right? But I can't wait to open up those tubs and see a male locked up. That's the process. If you don't love the process, you're never going to love this business.
No, the process is not always easy to deal with. Like I remember we were in Vegas. Brian invited me and Lily to Vegas. I got to hang out with Miguel, Brian, the whole family, and it was amazing. And I was a little frustrated at that time because we were talking about breeding and stuff. And I had 5 females that I was like, please go for me this year. They even went for the year before, but they didn't lay for me. And I was telling you how I was just feeding the living shit out of my animals. And how like a lot of times, a ball python that's too fat or maybe overfed won't lay for you. Not only that year, but probably the next year too. But like,
gotta know when to feed them.
Right?
When is the important part. Feed the shit out of them at the right time of the year.
Right, and it's not all the time.
It's not all the time. People make the mistake in the summer. You want them to be lean.
Yes.
You want them to go into the breeding season a little underweight, not a lot underweight, a little. If an animal is supposed to be 1,800 grams, you want her to be 1,650.
Right.
Okay. And then but now she's going to be 2,000 before long because you're going to spike her. If you go into so listen, to be totally honest with you, breeding most reptiles, monitors. If you ever talk to monitor guys, what do they talk about? Feeding cycles.
Right.
Period. They don't cool stuff. They don't do anything. They feed cycle.
Right.
Retic people, the retic guys, the guys that really have it down, will breed every 9 months. And the way they do that is they food cycle every 9 months. Instead of breeding every 12 months, they food cycle. They know how long they can go after a female lays. They'll give her an X amount of period of time where they're maintain feeding her, getting her body weight back from that kind of depleted egg laying state to now like, she's okay. She's not fat, but she's okay. And then they'll leave her at that for a couple months, and then they'll start hammering her with food. Ovulations come. So that's the thing. You got to, if you're feeding, if a female lays eggs and you're beefing the hell out of her, good chance she's not producing next year.
We'll say that last part one more time. If
a female lays eggs,
and then you start feeding her,
and you start feeding her crazy, like you want to feed her, but you don't want to feed her much.
Right.
You want to feed her like 1 rat a week.
Right.
Let her gain that body weight back over 3 or 4 months, not over 3 weeks. And so I'll go like 1 rat a week. But I pull the eggs, so I want most of my females are be back on food within
2 weeks or so.
Within a week or two.
Oh, a
week or two, they're back on food. And then I'll feed them 1 rat. That's it. They get 1 medium rat. Even if they could eat 3 medium rats, they get 1 medium rat, and they'll go from that. All right, they've lost 400 grams because of eggs and stuff like that. Whatever the case, 300, 400 grams. It'll take them 3 months to get that 400 grams back. Now, when I go into October, November, they're like slightly underweight. but they're really ravenous for feeding, right? Because now they're like, I want food,
They're getting
man.
locked up.
Yeah, now they're getting locked up. They get that male copulation that drives them to be. And you got to think about an animal in the wild, right? An animal in the wild, if at the right time of the year there's an abundance of food, they're going to think, and this is the way their body is going to react, that, okay, my babies are going to have food.
Right.
I can produce. When that female has had food all year, or there's no change of food during the course of the year, she may be apt to say, maybe I shouldn't produce this year. Maybe I should hold off because my babies might not have food, right?
So it's a precautionary thing.
Right. So now as soon as you hit that food at that right period of time, those females are going to start producing follicles.
Okay.
So it's a mistake a lot of people make, is they don't realize that food cycles everything. And that goes that way with boas, it goes that way with pythons, it goes that way with colubrids, it goes that way with monitor lizards. Pretty much almost any reptile I've ever bred, you go light on food to heavy on food when you want them to produce.
So let's just say, somebody who had a snake that they were feeding too much, they're not laying, best thing to do is just give them a little bit of fast, do you think? Or what do you think?
I think that, try not to get into a situation where, like, a first-year female can be pretty hefty, because if you're pushing her up, you're not really food cycling that much, right? But after that first lay or that first breeding season, your females should never in the summertime be overweight. Right. They should always be lean.
In the best shape they can possibly be in.
Right. Yeah.
Summer bodies,
exactly. And then increase when you get to the breeding season. So try not to put yourself in that position, because you can cost yourself 2 or 3 years for that female to back regulate. Right. So it might not just be a 1 year thing. It could take 2-3 years for that female to lose enough body weight where there's not. You got to remember also that if you're feeding all year heavy, they're producing fat around their ovaries, right? And as fat gets around that ovary, there's less chance of follicular growth and less chance for sperm to get into the ovaries to actually fertilize the animals.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And this is stuff that I would have never even processed it in my mind unless I asked the questions, but B, know the people. I feel like the whole, getting yourself around people who've been around this stuff is like the best thing you could do. Like, mentorship is huge, man. And I feel like, a lot of people who have an outside looking in approach and they go, well, I got money, I'm going to do this. And they think they just come on in without any advice, learning shit on your own. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and that's what most wealthy people that have got in, the guys I know that have dropped $1 million plus in. And again, that's probably why the Miguels have done well, is he did drop a lot of money, but he also listened. He was looking for advice. A lot of these guys come in, like I said, I'm telling you, they come in with if that guy can do it, I can take over this business. And they don't want to take advice because they think they know everything. Right. And then they fail miserably. You have that, and then you have the other side where, people get in and don't realize the amount of dedication it takes, and then they fail miserably. Or they get, into the wrong project because they were kind of bamboozled into the wrong project. That's one thing that happens a lot. You get the wrong mentor that is not really interested in your success. They're worried about their own success.
Yeah, their benefit, right? And it's funny, you at first, you being on the other end, like if you're the one seeking for help and you hear this person's proposition, of course it's going to sound good to you.
It's going to sound good
because you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
When Miguel came to me years ago and said, hey, I really want to, learn a bunch of stuff. I want to pick your brain. One of the things I told him is I said, okay, I will do anything I can do to give you any advice I can give you. I said, but you know what that means? I'll never sell you a snake. And he goes, what do you mean? I want to spend money with you. I said, no, it can't work that way. Right. I said, my relationship with you has to be because if I'm giving you advice and then you're buying snakes, then I have an agenda. If you're not buying snakes, I have no agenda. So everything I'm telling you is the truth because I have no agenda. Right. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not benefiting from you at all. No, Miguel did end up buying a few things for me here and there, but it was never a customer relationship, and that's the way I feel about almost everyone now. It's like, I appreciate people spending money with me when they do, but when it comes to advice, I usually back away from sales. Like, if you want advice from me and we're going to get into this relationship where I'm a mentor-ish type of person, then I can't make money off of you because then the mentor relationship isn't true. There's an agenda.
You got any questions right now?
We got some super chats. First one from our boy Antoine at Hydras of Pythons.
Antoine, what's up, man?
Boy.
Not sure who this guy is, but he's pretty dope. JK, Brian's the man.
Yeah, it's the guy with the banana shirt. That's it. I own a crazy reptile merch company. That's all I do.
And then question from Jay Hendo. What did you read or watch to help restructure the business?
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick while you
Yeah,
answer
go
that
ahead.
one.
So to be honest with you, there was a million things that I read and watched. I mean, I could probably never go down the list of everything, but there was one book I read that was called Often Wrong, Never in Doubt. It was a really good book by Donnie Deutsch. Like I said, lots of things with like Warren Buffett talking about long-term business strategies. I mean, the list goes on and on. But more importantly, I think that I'm a big believer in, and I talk about this a lot with my family and anyone that listens to me, is I'm a big believer in multi-stream income streams, right? Do you know that the average millionaire in the United States has 7 income streams? 7. The average millionaire. So I think that when you put all your eggs in one basket, you're really in a touchy spot. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that everyone should have 7. We actually have 8 businesses that we run. We have a couple businesses that are kind of going to be launching over the next, like I have this weird thing where I'm like, I want 10 income streams. I don't know why I feel that way. I guess it's just a nice even number. But right now we have 8, and you don't have to have 7. You don't have to have 8. You don't have to have 5. But make sure you have more than one. I told MJ this at dinner, and I don't mean this disparaging at all. I said I didn't really ever make money in life until I stopped breeding snakes for a living. Right? When I only bred snakes for a living, I didn't. I had good years. I had bad years. I lived a great lifestyle, right? I was traveling around. I was doing all kinds of stuff. It was absolutely incredible. But I still wasn't really flourishing from a business standpoint until that was not my main focus. And it doesn't mean that you could still have that as your main focus. Just make sure you have other things. And I think that's what the fundamental change in my business strategy was that I wasn't going to have one income stream and just breed snakes, right? And I had to figure out what that meant and what that meant to me. Now, the hard part is that I want to be passionate about every one of those 8 things, right? Every one of those 8 things that I'm making money, I want to be as passionate as I am the reptiles. So there are a couple things I work on that have nothing to do with animals, but I'm still really passionate about them. Whether it's just an idea that I have in my mind, and I feel like I have to. This is the thing. I love building stuff. I do like physically building stuff, but I'm talking more like conceptually building stuff, right? Like I like starting from nothing and seeing it develop into something. It's amazing to see that, and so that drives me as much as anything is to see like where I can do. And then I always have a chip on my shoulder because so many people always think I'm going to fail, and so I want to prove them wrong. I want to. People want. They love to see people that they think are successful fail. And so that does give me a chip on my shoulder that basically is like, what, I'm going to continue to prove people, and not just people like in the industry or people on YouTube or anything like that, but also even my family. My family never thought I was going to succeed, and always said that I would never do anything. And I always say, I'm still trying to prove my dead dad wrong. It's not a good deal. It's not great. Maybe that's why I have mental issues, but it's true.
Yeah. I mean, I could kind of relate on that. Like, with me, my dad's always been my biggest support, but I've been a big family guy. Like my family's meant everything, like my aunt and uncles. And, I've always gotten praised with sports and stuff like that. But like, I was always, even though I was in sales, I was always like questioning, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? I always feel like, well, you should find something better than sales. And, I finally found something that's animals, right? But I'm the happiest I've ever been. Yeah. I'm becoming the best person I've ever been. And it's almost like, well, why do you do that? You know what I mean? Like, and no offense, they can have that, but I feel like that's my drive, because now I finally feel like I'm happy, but now my family still thinks, well, what are you going to do with animals? You know what I mean? So
no, it's hard for people to look from the outside. I mean, still to this day, my mom thankfully is still alive, and I don't think she understands the level of success that we've achieved, And I understand that. She's like, you're just playing with snakes for what I mean? Like, when are you going to grow up, Brian? You're, 51 years old. When are you going to grow up and do something for a business or real, And so my brother and sister are the same way. They think I'm an idiot, and they're happy to always give me plenty of advice about how I should run my business. And they've never had a day of their life running a business. So
it's funny how that works.
It's funny how that works.
All right. So is there any more?
One more from Mac Lorenzo.
Mac, my buddy.
I've seen you wield gratitude and optimism as a formidable weapon against struggles, both internal and external, with great success. What guides you?
I think, interestingly enough, even in my darkest days, I'm extremely optimistic, right? And what I mean by that is that even in my darkest days, I always knew there'd be better days, right? Instead of swimming in the dark days, I would, and I tell you, there were times, and this is deep, I'm going to be honest with you how deep it is that, and I remember one time, again, there's a lot of blurs over the last year, but I remember one time sitting in my living room at my house, and Lori was there and Noah were both there, and I was using them very hard to get through the moment, and I remember it was so much mental pain. I mean, we're talking pain that you don't. I mean, I pray that no one has to ever feel the pain that I was in at that moment, and many moments over the year. And I remember every minute was, can I make it through one more minute before killing myself? And that's all it was. Just let's get through one more minute. And then a minute from now might be better. And I remember sitting in my living room that day, and Noah and Lori were both consoling me because I was in such bad shape. And I remember crying like unbelievable. I mean, just like tears rolling down my face, like, please, why do I have to suffer like this? And will it ever end? And I remember Noah and Lori both hugging me. And that got me through that moment. And the rest of the night was better. Not great. I still sucked, but I didn't want to kill myself anymore. I knew it was good. And then the rest of the night, I had the optimism to know it would get better, And I always tell people, I'm not a religious guy. I'm a spiritual guy, right? So I'm a big spiritual guy. I believe in a lot of higher power stuff. I probably am not as traditional in religion as most people might think, but I do believe that there's, you can call it source energy. You can just call it whatever you want. You call it God, Buddha, you name
Rick James.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Rick, exactly. But there's definitely, and that's what, the optimism and the faith is what gets me through these days. And listen, I'm about to embark on something that seems absolutely ridiculous, in this expansion. I mean, like, the amount of money that I'm going to have to put into this seems, and not just money, but the actual amount of work and energy and is ludicrous. It's ludicrous for someone like me. And yet I have complete, utter faith and optimism that it's going to not only work, but it's going to be a huge, huge success. So that's what gets me through.
Now, with that kind of confidence that you just explained right now, Brian, is that coming from just having so many, like, you had the first grand opening, the 2.0 grand opening. I'm pretty sure all those grand openings were fucking stressful.
Yeah, they were very stressful.
So, but it's just like, here we go again, right?
Yeah, I think it's, I think that I always tell people this when it comes to, business, life, whatever it is, you have to be completely okay with failing.
Yeah,
it's
going to happen.
Like you cannot stop doing things because you're going to fail,
right?
Because you will fail.
Yeah.
You're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. And if I look at all of the crazy things I've done over the last 35 years, there's no doubt if I had a little tally marks on everyone, there were more failures than there were successes. But with every failure, you learn how not to fail a little bit easier, and you learn what works, what doesn't work. And you learn, when you swing for the fences. It's interesting. There's two philosophies in business, right? You can either, swing for the fences and home run, right? Or you can try to just get singles, get on base, get singles, make it to second to third, and eventually get home. And when you do that, there's that saying, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. When you do the single base, the second base, third base, and you get around and stuff like that, your reward's probably not going to be as big, right? But your foundation of business should probably be that. Get on base, make your way around and get to the home base. And then when an opportunity comes up that you can swing for the fences, fucking swing for the fences. You know what I mean? And don't be afraid, because the first, second base thing, you're probably not failing that much because you're playing it safe. But when you swing for the fences, you realize what you're risking. You're risking it all, and you've got to be willing to risk it all. Thankfully for me, and the fact that I have a wife that doesn't mind us being broke, I can swing for the fences and risk it all. Right. Because I'm not money driven. I don't care. If the only thing money does for me is create freedom, period. right? I don't, look at, I mean, I've got a couple bracelets that people gave me for free, which I love, by the way. This one is really
You've had
cool.
those for a while.
I've had these for since the beginning of my anxiety, and I never take them off. This is actually the black dot here is a piece of mud from the Dead Sea, the lowest elevation on Earth, and then there's a drop of water from Everest. So that gives me an idea of balance, right? The highest and the lowest you can be, let's say, in the middle and balance things out. My point is that I don't spend money on myself. I don't care about material things. So I'm able to risk everything. But this time I know I'm risking it all. I'm risking it all, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. There's no way it'll fail.
Right.
No way. It's going to work. I just have that confidence.
And coming from a baseball background, man, getting on base is traction. Like that's not dude, getting on base is better than striking out all the time.
Yeah.
So like Brian was saying, you wait for an opportunity. Don't even wait. Home runs happen on their own. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'll tell you what, man, like I wasn't a home run hitter, but goddamn, I always got on base. And I wasn't a power hitter, but I always hit the ball where they couldn't get to it. Right. And eventually, man, that me getting on base ended up me scoring. And every now and then I would hit the ball over the fence. Yeah. But the thing is, like, that shit just happens sometimes when you don't even try.
No, it's absolutely. As a matter of fact, some of my biggest successes in life were on things that I didn't think were going to work. Yeah. I literally was like, I don't think this is going to work, but I'm going to try it anyways. And then some of the things I really thought were going to work didn't work out well at all. Right. This is a different opportunity. I feel very confident. I have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. As long as I can execute, and execution is a huge, huge part of success. And you got to remember, you also have to stay in your lane, right? And what I mean by that is that you have to understand what you're good at, what you're not good at. I always tell people I'm a visionary that sees the letter A and I see the letter Z. The letter Z is the finish line, right? But the alphabet's pretty fuzzy. It's not very good. I'm not very good at B, C through the rest thing. So I surround myself with people that are really good with the alphabet, but aren't so good with A and Z, right? So they have to follow me and understand my vision and buy into my vision. That's the other thing about my place right now. Everyone understands that they buy into what I believe into. They buy into the vision of the Reptarium. They buy into the vision of YouTube and social media. They buy into what I believe in. And if they don't, I don't want them on my team. Because they have to understand that I'm so passionate about what I believe in, and I'm so driven to what I want to believe in. I need the people around me to be I want to be their leader. And I want them to lead through example and to be appreciative and all the things that happen so that they can go on this journey with me and they can achieve great things that maybe they wouldn't have achieved on their own, right? And so Lori is great, Steph is great, Beth is great, Ashley's great. Those are my, Jay is obviously great. These are my people that are the alphabet.
Right. And it's, that's honestly one of the best ways of laying it down. I mean, I never looked at the alphabet because I'm a visionary too, man. Like I could look from point A to point Z, but all the middle stuff, which it's a huge piece.
It's
you know
a
what I mean?
Part about it. And you need, but the thing is, it's special to it's special to be able to have that vision, because most of the people that are really good with the alphabet don't.
Just kidding. Sorry about that.
Whoopsie. Okay. You just missed the best shit, man. It's unbelievable what you guys just
said some shit you don't want to know what you just said.
I'm never going to I'll never say that again either. I never will. But no, we're just talking about the alphabet and how, a lot of times the people, this is a funny saying. And I don't know how do you have a garage by any chance?
It's the trap.
Okay, the trap's the garage. So it's going to be hard for you to answer this. They always say that you can tell an entrepreneur by how dirty his garage is.
Right. And
you could tell a manager about how clean their garage is. Right? So a manager is always going to be a super clean garage. An entrepreneur is going to have a messy freaking garage. Wow. Let me tell you what, my garage ain't very clean, man. I can tell you that much right now. Now, Lori would have it clean, but I fill it up quicker than she can clean it up.
Wow. So the fact that I'm OCD, I'm more of a manager than an entrepreneur?
Well, it depends. Most people that are really good visionary entrepreneurs Doesn't mean if you're OCD and you like things clean, that's fine. But most of those guys are just, we can't be bothered by that stuff.
Right.
We can't
That's
be bothered
true.
by like I don't, listen, I always tell people, I don't care about the intricacies of, the P&L in January compared to February. I can't be bothered by those things, right? I want the bigger picture. I want to know where we're heading, what the direction is. Okay, if we had a little bit of a down February, how are we rectifying it? What's March going to look like? What's next February going to look? I can't be worried about the little, like sometimes Laura will come to me and be like, oh, we got to talk about this or this. And I'm just like, I don't care about any of that. You just make the decision. I trust you. I don't care. I just don't want to be bothered by that because I've got this huge vision that I've got going on that I need to implement. And it's like, it's impossible for me to take energy out of that vision to worry about the day-to-day grind of something that doesn't matter to me, Right. But I need her to think it matters to her. And if it doesn't matter to her, it doesn't work. Right. It's like those things are important. Those day-to-day things are super important, but not to me. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you something about Lori, because obviously the way you explain Lori, man, what a huge player in everything you have, right?
Yeah, I couldn't be here without her.
And I feel the same way about my wife, but my wife is like, she helps me when I can, but I feel like I purposely do everything on my own, right? And I feel like at some point I'm gonna need her help, right? But when do I decide, like, let me bring her in more? Like, when do I decide that?
Now, do it now. So I'll give it some more advice. The biggest thing in success is delegation. Okay. The biggest thing in success. You cannot name one successful person that doesn't delegate 90% of those things that they need to be done.
Because they got so much other stuff to focus on. So
listen, you don't worry about, if you can bring your wife in, a worker, whatever the case is, and you could do so, listen, there's a saying that says, the more successful we get, the less we do what made us successful. Okay. Right. The grunt work. Right. So I love cleaning snake cages. And I wish I could clean snake cages all day. But I don't have time, energy, and my value as a person is too high to do that right now. Right. I need to be doing other things so that I can pay the guys that are cleaning my snake cages wages and give them raises as needed. And you see what I'm saying? Right. So delegation is huge. And Lori just recently, after 30-something years, figured it out, right? I've been talking to Lori forever about delegation, and she's like you, like, I'm doing everything myself. Right. I'd rather do it myself than teach someone to do it. She finally started letting go, right? Beth, one of our office help, started taking over all the emails for BHB. Freed Lori up probably 2 hours a day.
Which is a lot.
Right. Then Ashley, another office help we have, started doing all the bookings for the Reptarium. Freed up another 2 or 3 hours a day. Now all of a sudden, Lori's got 5 more hours of her day to do things. Now it's like she's like a free person. She's like a different person, because she delegated. Now I've got to actually rein her in a little bit because now she seems like she wants to delegate everything.
I'm going to the lake.
Yeah, I'm out to the lake. I'm just gonna. Everyone else can do my work.
I miss you, Lori. I wish I was at the lake. I'm not lying about that.
Yeah, but that's what she. Even today, I called her up and I said, yeah, we had a tour that was on my docket, but when I refreshed the page, it wasn't there. Right. And I said, but it said it was paid. So I know that, and they showed up when we did the tour. I go, it was just over, and she's like, well, I wouldn't know about that. Ask Ashley. You know what I mean? Like, 6 months ago, she would have known everything about it. Yeah. She would have been like, oh yeah, no, that's this. But I think it's great because she needs that too. She needs to delegate. She needs to free her time up, whether it's to balance in life and enjoy life a little bit more, or maybe do things that are more important for her role. Because she's basically like like if I'm the CEO, she's the CFO, or really, I don't even know if that, she may be the CEO and I'm just like the president or something like that of the company. You know what I mean? Like she pretty much runs the nuts and bolts of everything. You know?
She owns a restaurant and you're cooking the food?
Yeah, I would say almost opposite. Like I own the restaurant, she's cooking the food.
Oh, got it. So she's serving all the dishes.
Yeah, she's making, like even like with the crew, like I don't run the crew. Like I don't hire people, I don't fire people, I don't, it's like, my relationship with my crew is typically more like I want to lead through example, I want to inspire, I want to, pep talk them, you're doing a great job, these types of things. That's my role with the crew. She's the role to make sure they're actually doing their work. Right. And it's getting done properly,
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, I mean, what's awesome, which when I say awesome, I mean, just when I walked in here, it wasn't as packed as it was before. Yeah. You had 40 people capacity, right?
Yep.
And that's going to be the regular thing from now on? Or what's going on with it?
Even with, so what happened was when we closed the COVID, so just to set the timeline when you were here, of course, was we opened March 13th of 2020. We were open 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, the world shut down. So we're done. And we were closed for almost 4 months, completely closed for almost 4 months. Now I pivoted pretty quickly. And I pivoted quickly to some virtual stuff that was at least paying the bills. Literally, so we closed on Monday. Never had done a virtual tour in my entire life, right? Wow. We closed on Monday. My first virtual tour was Tuesday. I was booked at least, so I needed to make about $10,000 a month to just keep the doors open at the Reptarium. Shit. And so that meant I needed to do 3 tours a day. And so we booked no more than 3 virtual tours a day. We were booked solid for that entire 4 months. Not one day did I not do 3 tours. The problem is that as my mental capacity started getting bad over those 3 months, those virtual tours were harder and harder to do. And thankfully I got through them. And then in June, we were able to open to 10 people per hour. That was the state mandate. You could have 10 people in a facility at my size. And so we again, you know, as a visionary, probably if we shut on March 16th, again, March 17th, I had the first virtual tour. By March 20th, I already had the plan for reopen. Wow. And that plan for reopen was the only way we're going to be able to reopen, because I said there's no way we're going back in 3 months to opening up to 250 people in the place. It's not happening. So I went to Laura and I said, when we open up, they're going to limit our numbers. Right. So we have to go to 1 hour blocks. We need to sell 1 hour blocks. And so that's what we did. When we reopened, we sold, instead of you walk in and you can stay for 5 hours, you bought 1 hour block, but there was only 10 people. That was for, I think, 3 weekends in a row. So we were open at 5 hours. So it's only 50 people. Wow. That's not a lot of money. 50 people at $10 a head. It's not, I mean, we're barely, and we've got crew and we got all this other stuff, but hey, it's better than making $0, right? And so, so we did that for 3 weeks, and then it went to 20 people. It doubled to 20 people, and it stayed 20 people for quite some time. That was the state mandate. And then over the last, I'd say maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago, maybe even, we were able to, by capacity, we were able to do 25% capacity. 25% capacity was 40 people. Wow. So we went to 40 people an hour, 200 people a night, 3 nights a week, 600 people per weekend, and we've been sold out ever since. We've never had a slot open. We're always sold out. And so the point is now, as of Tuesday, it's 100% open here, 100% capacity, but we're staying at 40 people per hour because it's just a better environment. It's just, you know,
a better experience too.
It's a better experience for everybody. Right. You know, I mean, you walk in, you got 40 people. We've got 5 people that are working, helping 40 people. Right. You know, so you get lots of one-on-one care. You can see stuff. And a lot of my regulars that were coming in for almost every single weekend, they would come in before COVID. They would come back and say, I would 10 times rather pay $10 to be in here for an hour like this than pay $10 to be in there for 5 hours like it used to be. Right. You know, because they said it's just such a better experience. Right. It's such a better experience. So when we expand, of course, we're going to be adding about double the square footage of the Reptarium when we're done. So we'll probably increase that number from 40 to probably 70 or 75, so that, you know, the amount of space per people is going to be about the same, but we'll probably close to double the numbers per hour, but we'll have double the space. So we'll still stay kind of the same spread out, you know what I mean? And then the same thing with upstairs, we'll be able to add another side. So we might get to 150 people per hour between the aquarium and the Reptarium, but it'll feel like the same density of people than it is now with 40 people.
Right. That's a good way of figuring that out too, because I mean, at the end of the day, anything to make, you know, not only the guest experience better, but then also create less stress for the workers, you know, because if it's one thing I see Jay and your other employees, they want to get to everybody as much as they can, you know?
Yep. That's what we talk about all the time. Get to, you know, don't stand around. If you pull out a snake and everyone's held that snake, you put that snake back and then you go, can I help you with something? Right. What do you want to see? Bring something else out, you know, stuff like that. So it's kind of like, you can liken it to Disney, right? Yeah. Like if you go to Disney on a packed day, it's not very fun. But you go to Disney when there's 25% of the people, because maybe COVID, like Lori went to Disney during COVID, and she said it was unbelievable. She said best experience she ever had. She said you could literally like go to a line, you wait 2 minutes, get on the ride, go back in the line 2 minutes, whereas normally it's an hour and a half wait. You know?
I can tell you, I mean, Matt, you probably been to Disneyland when it's been dead at least once, right?
Oh yeah,
And it's amazing.
It's peaceful.
Yeah. It's so peaceful. And that's just a great example because, I mean, I literally can't recall all the times I went to Disneyland when it was fucking packed.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the times I went on every fucking ride in the first 3 hours. Like, you know what I mean? And it's the kind of experience you want. Because I'll tell you what, man, I wasn't too keen about going back to Disneyland after I spent fucking 8 hours walking around and went on 2 rides, you know?
Yeah, no, screw that.
You
and
know?
that's the whole idea of the Reptarium now, and ultimately the aquarium, is that we want to have people have experiences that are far superior than what they are. Sure, could we make more money if we're wide open? 100%.
Right.
But if I take 20% less profit, but make the experience 10 times better, I'll take my 20% less profit. Right. And, you know, and that's fine. That don't get greedy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that's, I mean, greed and these animals feel like they go so hand in hand together, unfortunately. And I can't, you know what I mean? Like to each their own, you know, and I breed ball pythons to make money. And, you know, I guess I'm a little guilty on that part, but at the end of the day, like there's literally people trying to price a snake as high as they possibly can, make as much as money as they can. And I feel like that's the only end game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, definitely, you know, money should never be the driving thing. Do you know what the most misquoted verse in the Bible is?
What?
Money is the root of all evil. And
that's a misquote.
It's a misquote. Do you know why?
Why?
Because the verse says the love of money is the root of all evil.
So the loving, like money, it's not money.
Money's not the problem.
The obsession
it's the love.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
people should never, you know, like you said, just go after things for money. Doesn't mean that, but you should never be embarrassed to make money at what you do, right? You should never, you know, say like, oh, I shouldn't make money. Listen, if it was up to me, I would give every snake away I could. Every single snake I produce, I would give away. I wouldn't even sell it. But at the same time, I deserve to be paid. Now, that being said, I've said this a million times, and people have heard me say it. Lori and I have never taken a check out of the Reptarium or BHB in the last, well, not never, in the last 5 years. So since the Reptarium's open, I've never made a penny. Lori's never made a penny. It just goes right back into the business. We make money, but it just goes back into the business. It's now getting ready to go back into the next expansion. BHB is the same thing. I haven't taken a paycheck. Lori hasn't taken a paycheck in 5 years.
Right.
You know, so it's not, we're never money driven on those companies because we don't make any money. I mean, we make money, but we don't take money to use in our personal life.
Right back into
this goes right back into the businesses. You know, with BHB, it's probably not going back in on the level. Really, what will end up happening is probably some of BHB's profits over the last couple of years, and everyone knows that Reptile profits were really good this last year because of COVID and stimulus and stuff like that. That money will probably go towards expansion too.
Right.
Snake checks.
Yeah. Right. Snake checks. Yeah.
All right. So I have another question, Brian. Now, you know, I'm not gonna lie, man. If it wasn't for people like you and, you know, Miguel, people like Matt, like people who tell me like, dude, just keep doing your thing, man. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you what, when I first started this podcast, I, you know, can't believe you're cussing, doing all this, doing all that. And if it wasn't for the people like you and Miguel and Matt and other people telling me, dude, just keep being you, I probably would have fucking backed out. Now, a lot of people get hit with that negativity when they try to do something new, right? But a lot of people don't have, you know, I don't want to say opportunities, or they just don't have somebody like I have in my life to tell me just keep going, right? So what is advice to you to somebody out there who just is so worried about what other people think, but they're very passionate about wanting to do something?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I don't have to tell you that, you know, I've been punched in the face more than anyone in this business. Right. And it's never stopped me. You know what I mean? I just keep going forward.
And that's what's driven me, just so you know.
Yeah, and so I think that there was a time where it bothered me tremendously bothered me. And then you have to come to a realization that it doesn't matter what people think of you at all, right? You know what matters is you matter to me because you know me as a person. You don't know me as the guy on YouTube. You don't know me as whatever. You know me as a person. Your opinion matters. You know what I mean? Like if you told me, or if I heard you telling people that I was an asshole, it bothered me. But someone on YouTube that's never met me doesn't really know who I am. Right. And so if their opinion of me is that I'm a piece of shit animal abuser that only cares about money, why should I give a shit what they think? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you think about me. It doesn't mean anything to me, you know? And really, this is the other thing. I live my life online, right? I mean, not only, you know, like by putting it online, but like I love social media. I'm just, like I told you about being passionate about all the things I do. I'm passionate about social media. I love Instagram. I love TikTok. I love YouTube. I don't love Facebook, but I do work with Facebook.
Touche.
but I don't. But I work with Facebook, and please don't say I've got a project coming with Facebook here later next week that is a pretty substantial.
I mean, we're live on Facebook, but who gives a shit?
Yeah, sorry, Facebook. I love you. I love you, Facebook. No, we're working on something. I can't say anything about it, but next week I'll be able to say something about what we're doing with Facebook.
All right.
That's very, very exciting for me. But I don't like the community is what I'm saying on Facebook. But so anyways, point is that I have never left a negative comment on any video I've ever seen in my entire life, whether it be Reptile or not other. Never, ever, never left a negative comment. So that tells me if you leave a negative comment on a video, that's more about you than it is about me.
It's a personal thing on yourself.
Yeah, it's on you because I've never done it. I've seen plenty of videos I hate. I've seen plenty of animal videos that have been abusive, not necessarily reptiles, but anything abusive. I'm not a big fan of hunting. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say I don't mind hunting. I'm not a fan of watching hunting.
Right.
I don't want to see animals die, right? But I've never went on a hunting channel and been like, you're a fucking piece of shit. You should die. You know, I should shoot you in your head or something like that. Never done it, right? So what does that say? I am okay with myself. People that put nasty vitriolic thing trying to stop you from living your dream, that's on them. Don't worry about what they care about. Worry about what matters to you. Don't let anybody ever tell you to stop your dream. And like, just like with you, you're yourself, you do your thing. Everyone knows who MJ is, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like no one, you're not something like if someone met you, you're the same guy.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I make sure of that.
Yeah, and so that's what makes it good. That's why what we were talking about earlier that we won't say here about how I talked to you about a project I wanted to maybe work with you because I thought you were the perfect person for that job. You know, because it's like you are who you are, and don't let anyone. And if you're in that set, listen. No one wants to get beat up. Do you think it feels good when I wake up and so? My life is about animals and loving animals and getting people to love animals. And when I hear someone say I'm an animal abuser, do you think that feels good? Fuck no, it doesn't, man. I would die to go against the things that people say about me. I would literally I would fight them to the death to oppose what people say about me. But in the end, I can't give a shit about what they say about me because that's on them. It's not on me. Yeah. And that's how you got to deal with your life.
Now, I mean, one thing I'm relating to now, and I already know this is going to hit home with you because in the beginning of all this shit, you said a lot of the fucking rumors that started were people that were like on the same level as you or like just breeding with you, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I started in this a few years ago with friends and I'm like, yeah, man, these people really have my back. But, lately, I can't help it if someone sends me screenshots of shit.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, I appreciate it. But I am finding things that there's motherfuckers who love to kiss my ass, but they want to say all these things about me behind my back. Yeah. And I'm coming from a huge place of working on my anger. And I'm going from not giving a shit what a stranger says to now I'm seeing people who actually fucking care, respect about that are talking shit.
It's tough. That's why I walked away from the business side of the reptile thing. That's why
I feel like walking away is what you got to do.
Well, it was what I had to do, right? You know what I mean? It's like, I struggled really hard about going to Schaumburg NARBC this weekend.
Yeah. You were missed, by the way. We all wanted to see
I appreciate it, man. And there are some people I would love to see, but I also know that there's a lot of people in that room that have said unbelievably horrible lies about me.
Right.
And it's hard for me. I can't go smile in their face and tell them, oh, you're a great guy, when I know you've talked shit about me for years and want to see me fail. I mean, why do you want to see me fail? Worry about you.
Right.
My failure isn't your success.
Exactly.
At all. You can, I love that saying, what rapper said this? He said, don't think I hate you. I still want you to eat, just not at my table.
Yeah, who
said that? It's a great rapper. It's I want you to eat, just not at my table, right? I don't want anyone to fail.
Big Sean? I don't know. I can't remember. I literally just read that somewhere too.
Big Sean.
Yeah, it might have been.
Whoever heard that song, drop the name of that song because I'm real curious. But anyways, it's like I don't hate you.
Yeah, I don't care.
You're just not going to eat with me.
Yeah, exactly. Even the people that are assholes and I think are if you're successful, good for you. It doesn't bother me at all, man. You know what I mean? It's like they say, all ships rise with the tide, right? You know what I mean? If we as a reptile community grow, we all grow. So even my competitors on YouTube, I'm not looking at Jay Brewer and saying like it's bullshit that Jay's got 2.5 or 3, almost 3 million followers on Instagram and I only have under 600,000. I'm saying good for him, man. He's worked his ass off. He deserves to get that. And because he's getting 3 million, maybe I'm going to end up being the next guy with 3 million because he's rising the tide, right? And I think so oftentimes we get so obsessed with other people's success that we want them to fail thinking that that's going to make us succeed. And that's just not the way it works.
Not even worry about your own success.
Yeah, worry about you.
Yeah.
Period. That's it. Worry about you.
Tupac said it.
Yeah.
Tupac. I thought it was Tupac.
That
I thought it was
Tupac,
Tupac, actually. Yeah. Yeah, that was OG. That was an old saying from him. And I think it's the most prolific dead rapper ever, right?
Yeah, for real. Either him or Biggie.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is that that's why it was a struggle for me to want to go to Schaumburg. It's just because I had to personally walk away from hearing things about me that were so unbelievably against what I believed in. And
just so you know, man, like this is when I was hearing rumors. This is before you and I even talked. Like I was just a fan of your work, and then I was seeing like Brian Barczyk, these group things, and I'm somebody who like I'll investigate. Like I'm like, okay, let's see fucking proof of this shit. And I remember the first person I talked to was Miguel, and Miguel's like, bro, you're gonna see all this shit about Brian, but not one person coming with fucking proof or facts. And that was the first person, and then everything else was the same shit. Like everyone's just talking out of their ass.
Well, I love the fact like Daisy's had mouth rot for 10 years now.
Right.
Like snakes live for 10 years with mouth rot, by the way. Easy.
Right.
They eat every week and they do great, but they have mouth rot,
Right.
And it's like, no, she has an overbite. She's had an overbite since she was a baby. She gets a little bit of bedding in it sometimes, so it looks a little bit cruddy. Never infected, never bad. And, it's like I have a vet that comes in and checks her stuff all the time. Literally our vet is moving next door, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
She bought the building next door. So you guys will see the vet actually in the vlog more because she's going to be around even more often. But
that's huge.
But my point is that, you hear this stuff, not to mention, hey, listen, old snake bites days, you got to remember that one of the problems with like social media downside is that what was considered acceptable 12 years ago is now get you canceled.
Yep.
Right?
Unless you're South Park.
Yeah, unless you're South Park. Exactly. That we're just talking about that too.
Or Eminem.
Yeah,
true,
because
true.
he don't give a shit either.
Right.
I have an Eminem story, but I won't talk about it right now.
Okay.
But I met him once.
Sick.
Yeah. But anyways, my point is that back in the early snake bites days, we did a lot of things I'd never do now, ever.
Right.
I would never do them now, but I did them, and back then people loved it. Right. But now from 12 years ago, they'll pull a clip and say, look at what Brian did.
Yep.
But 12 years ago, not only was that okay, but people loved it. The same people that loved it now hate it. What do? Do I try to, one thing I've always said is I never delete anything, right?
Yeah,
I don't hide from my past, man. I accept my past, and you know what? Judge me on what I'm doing today, not what I did 10 years ago. Don't judge me on my past 10 years. And I'm not talking about like, raping somebody or something like that. I'm talking about like, like getting bit by a snake or having Chewy dress up as the Easter bunny and getting bit by a snake. Don't judge me on that. I'm not proud of it either, but I didn't delete it because I own my past. But I don't do it today, right? I mean, like, listen, if you think how we keep our animals, in particular at the Reptarium, I mean, you can't tell me that we don't have some of the nicest enclosures.
The nicest I've seen.
Matt, really?
And
Come on.
still people will be like, but he keeps monitors in drawers. Number one, I never kept a fucking monitor
Prove
in a
it!
drawer. Yeah, never, because there was a picture of a monitor sitting in a fucking open drawer.
While I was getting cleaned or something.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't his home. He didn't live there. But that picture 12 years ago still surfaces like it's like, look at it, there's proof he kept monitors. No, you didn't. Did you take a picture through the fucking window and it was in a rack? No, you didn't. So shut up. But my point is that that's the problem. But you have to sometimes, in my opinion, for my sanity, I have to walk away from it and say, you know what, that part of my life is gone. I would like to come back. I think I'll come to Tinley in October.
That'd be huge,
I think
man.
I think I will. But I might at the same time at the last minute say, you know what, I don't need that in my life. See, the thing you got to remember is that I would love to go see the people that support me at Tinley. I'd love to go see my friends like you at Tinley and all my other friends. But I don't have anything to gain by being at Tinley. right? I don't gain anything at all, nothing, right? Like, I mean, there's nothing that I gain by being there other than, seeing my friends and meeting people. But I can see my friends and meet other people and people can come to the Reptarium. People can do whatever, point is.
I love coming here.
Yeah. So my point is that like, it's hard for me to like go, all right, let's go do this,
right.
Now, but I might do it. I don't know. That was just for my sanity.
I mean, okay, I'm not a fucking show expert or pro. I mean, I've been to Pomona's. I've been to shows in California. I've been to Arlington.
Yeah.
I've even been to the new Tinley Schaumburg, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, I love the animals. I love the show. More important thing to me is meeting the people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, Brian, I'm sure shows were, I'm sure the same faces go to shows, but there's such a new wave of people now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about so big to where I am so confident you will get nothing but fucking love at these shows. I feel like no one has the fucking balls to say what they have to say to you in your face.
Well, I know
warriors.
Yeah, keyboard
well, I
warriors.
know that for a fact.
I'm not going to name anything. But let's put two and two together. I had somebody on my show who fucking absolutely hated you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was like, fuck. I hope this guy's not going to have the balls to come in and talk shit about Brian the whole time because I'm ready to back it up.
Yeah.
Not once did this guy has anything negative to say about you, and that is just the fucking proof in my mind that most of the shit that people are holding on or shit that was like. Created in 2017, couple years. But man, I feel like what you've been doing, Reptarium, the continuous vlogs, the podcast is catching so many new viewers, so many new wave of people attention to where I don't even think a lot of people even knew that you had hate pages on Facebook a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's still there.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant now. You know what I mean? It really is irrelevant.
Yeah, let's put a link in the description.
Here's the pic.
Get that attendance up a little bit there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, and I agree with you, and I should probably not worry about that, but like I said, it's just Jay always has this saying, "It's a juice worth the squeeze,"
Right.
And but I mean, I'd like to come back at some point and I just right now isn't the time. This weekend wasn't the time for me. I thought it was going to be, but it wasn't. And but maybe by October it will be the time. And I love Tinley. I think it's October Tinley in particular. I love Pomona. I love the super shows. They're absolutely amazing. Obviously shows out of the country have been incredible as well. So I miss that part of it. I miss the camaraderie. I miss sitting in bananas. I got to ship bananas on. This is from the bar.
Oh really?
No, it's not. I'm joking.
I was like, what?
The bar at Tinley is called Bananas. But I love sitting at Bananas. I love sitting in the lobby at 2 o'clock in the morning and shooting the shit about things. I shouldn't say that. Usually about 1:30 is when I want to peace out because that's when it turns from let's talk reptiles to I'm really drunk and I'm 3 inches from your face and I'm telling you about how much I love you. That's when I'm peacing out because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so I don't as soon as that darkness comes over, you know what I mean? You go from oh, this is fun, I'm having a few beers to also yeah, come here, right, give me a hug. That's I'm going out.
Check, please.
Yeah, so about 1:30 in the morning is usually when I peace out in Tinley, but I've been down there a few times at 4 in the morning as well.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, we had one late night in Schaumburg, I think. We stayed till 1:30 in the morning. Yeah. I mean, but luckily for me, man, I don't drink no more. And I'm telling you what, I was high as shit. I ate some mushroom edibles, but I woke up completely fine. I just can't do hangovers, man.
Yeah,
it's just not worth it to me. It really isn't because think about how much feeling like shit takes out of your day.
It kills your day.
It does.
I don't even know what a hangover feels. I mean, so I've been with Lori for almost 35 years, and she's seen me drunk twice.
Wow.
Twice, and so the last time was I think 21 or 22 years ago on New Year's Day. I was the guy that I've never drank in my entire life. I sparsely drank.
Right.
I wasn't a lot of times when I tell people I don't drink, they're like, oh, he must be an alcoholic or something like that. And with an addictive personality like me, I don't surprise that people would think that. But I've never drank alcohol. I mean, I other than socially, I've been drunk twice in the last 35 years. And but I was that guy that got drunk on New Year's Eve, was so hungover the next day, 22 years ago, that I was like, I'm never drinking again. And then I never drank again. I just was most people are 3 days later, they forget the hangover and they're pounding it again. Me, I was like, nope, I'm done. I don't need that ever again in my life. And so I've stayed that way.
And I think for a long time I drank even though I didn't want to drink. Like I drank even though I know it made me feel like shit. And I told Brian this last time I was in Vegas. Yeah, I was drinking with Miguel, and he's like, "Oh, let's get some tall boys." And then I remember he asked Brian, "You want to drink?" And you're like, "Nah, I just don't like it." And something hit him like, "Wait, dude, I don't think you like it either, bro." I was like, "How about you just don't drink right now?"
Yeah,
bro, I went to bed feeling fine.
I think the experience is so much better when you don't drink. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't like people.
It's
like
teach their own. Some people enjoy drinking. That's good.
Speaking of drinking, you can have a nip with that bourbon.
Hard pass. I'm okay.
Not you, but you.
That would drink.
Matt said that. Matt said that. Not you. We were just talking about not drinking. Like, here, have some whiskey.
Have a shot.
No. You can try that whiskey. But I miss the party there. It was always fun. We had a lot of fun in Tinley. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, because you go back to the Pete Call days and like the rock star days.
Pete Call was literally Hugh Hefner of the snake world. Right. You know, I mean, he might as well have had a grotto in his backyard with hot dogs and hot chips.
With a robe and
tigers and shit.
So Miguel is a little bit
Pete Callish.
Pete Callish, and what I mean by that is that selling the dream.
Right.
I always told people that you could be a non-snake person and hang out with Pete Call for a weekend, and you would open your checkbook and buy every snake you could buy.
Right.
Because you're like, I don't know what snakes do, but I want to be Pete Call.
Right.
I want to live that guy's lifestyle because he was a rock star, man. He was a rock star. And Miguel's a little bit of that now, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's got hot cars and he's got the Rolex and he's got the fun. It's like, I want to be that guy. If he's breeding ball pythons, get me to that. That's what I want to be. But Pete was like, legitimately, It's the difference between Miguel and Pete was that Pete was a rock star. He would be throwing TVs out of hotel windows on the 8th floor.
He was Motley Crue.
He was Motley Crue. Of blurring. I mean, I remember him renting a Corvette to go to the Daytona Reptile show and totaling it and didn't have insurance on it. It was like $35,000. You know what I mean? I remember going to Pete Call's house in Baltimore, outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and he had just bought a Ford Explorer. Back then, Ford Explorers were a big deal.
Yeah.
He paid like probably $20-something thousand and rolled it that night in his backyard. Running over trees. You would get in his truck, you go, "Come on, get in the truck, man!" And he would run over freaking like trees this big, crushing the sides of his thing, and finally he went and rolled the damn thing over.
Were you in the car with him?
Not when he rolled it, thankfully, but I did go driving with him. And he actually also, on a complete, I guess this was a pretty common occurrence for Pete, he actually got arrested, a DUI on his own property. Because he got injured in his car, and when they called the ambulance to get him, he was in the car, and they came and arrested him.
Wow!
On his own property. I mean, he was a rock star. I mean, the guy was absolutely out of his mind. But whatever he was, I always said, if anyone hadn't met Pete Call, like, he could have been anything. He was the guy that you walked in a room and you met Pete. He just was like, had an aura about him. Yeah. That was just like, I want to be with that guy. And he would do stuff like, I mean, he would go you into stuff that, I did get drunk once with him. Yeah. That was the other time Lori saw me get drunk. And she was pissed off, by the way.
The party, right? Wasn't there a big party or something?
There was a huge party.
Or some shit?
Well, what ended up happening was I somehow ended up in the pool with just in my underwear, but there were a couple naked girls in the pool. And Lori wasn't exactly too happy. I wasn't the only guy, but there were some naked girls. I was in the pool. Lori was not happy. I was really drunk. And needless to say, it was a very long drive home. Because I think it was like a 14-hour drive.
Oh my God, that must have been a quiet one.
And by the way, we partied till like 5 a.m. And Lori was really happy to wake me up at 6 to start driving home.
Yep.
6 o'clock. I got 1 hour of sleep. I woke up. I was still drunk.
Right.
She drove. We drove the entire way home. She never said one word to me.
God.
Yeah. So thanks
Pete.
I don't even remember how I got out of that one, but it was just
I mean, and with that being said, because I heard the shows were different, people were different. Crazy, like, can you give me an example, like the difference? And was it the crowd, like the size of the crowd,
well,
or
I think it was the energy, right? Because it was so new that like all of a sudden people that were like doing this for years, like me, I'd been doing it for years. Like, as a matter of fact, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, a solo podcast with me and Jay, just talking about snakes. And we had found some receipt books from 1999 and from the shows.
Wow.
And so some of the shows I would go to, and I remember like going like, oh, that was such a great show. And I'd make like $400. Like that was back in the day. I'd make like $400 and I'd be happy, you know? So I lived like the time of the years where it was like great just to make $400, $500. And then all of a sudden you're going to a show. I'll tell you what, my biggest show ever, and I've told this before, so I'm not bragging. My biggest show ever was Daytona. I don't remember the exact year. It was probably like 2001, 2002 when ball pythons were just really happening. But really you had like VPI with Tracy and Dave Barker, Kevin McCurley, and myself were basically the only ball python guys there, right?
Right.
I had baby clown ball pythons. No one else had baby clowns. I had a pastel clown ball python, the first ones ever produced. I made $250,000 that weekend. I made $175,000 on Friday night.
What, this is 99?
This is probably like 2001. $175,000 cash, by the way. There was no checks. There was no, cash.
Straight cash.
$175,000 on Friday before the show opened. And I made $250,000 that weekend. It was just a different environment. It wasn't just about the money. What it was is it was like this energy of like something new. You know what I mean? Like people walking in going like, wow, we're now legit. We were like closet reptile freaks, and now all of a sudden we're legit. We're businesses. We're buying buildings. We're building racks. We're Freedom Breeder just got started. You know what I'm saying? It's like It was like that's what I think was different about those days. Is it was like, and everyone was friends. Like there was no enemies.
Right.
You know what I mean? We were all doing well, and we were all excited about it. So you wouldn't go there and like this clique can't talk to this clique, and this clique can't talk to this clique. Everyone was together. Yeah. The Daytona show, the best part of the Daytona show and Orlando show before Daytona, because Orlando, of course, was the original show and moved to Daytona. They both had giant lobbies, like 5 times the size of Tinley. And there would literally be 800 people in the lobby, like until 2 in the morning. Like, and everyone would just hang in the lobby, and you would just walk around talking to everybody. Right. There'd be legends like Bob Clark there, Frank Reedus there, Gary Sipperly there. Those legends, they were just hanging out, and you would just walk up to them and start talking to them. And then you'd move to the next group and the next group and the next group. And you do that for hours until 2, 3 in the morning. That was I think what was different, because it was all new. So people didn't create this like, I hate him because he did this, and you shouldn't buy from him because he's an asshole. And I'm going to be a friend to your face, but I'm going to talk behind your back. There was none of that shit back then. You know why? Because there's no social media, bro. Well, that's the other thing. I'll tell you what, because I've even personally seen motherfuckers not like a certain person, but at a show they're hugging, they're best friends. Yeah. And I feel like I feel like social media is it could be such a pit hole for you if you just don't stay focused and really don't let the small things bother you. Yeah. And mainly what it is other people's success, man. You got motherfuckers who want to hit so many amount of clutches this year, and then they have Joe Schmo, who just started a year ago, who already passed you up in clutches, and that really fucks with somebody's head. Yeah, you gotta get past that ego thing. That's the thing. It's like ego is probably the thing that hurts people more than anything. And everyone has an ego, but you should keep your ego in check the best you can, and realize that no matter how good you are, there's going to be someone better, and you're never going to be on the top and stay on the top. That's just the way it is. So just stay in your lane, man. Do your thing and be happy with what you've got, and don't worry about what other people have. And that's but I agree, social media is definitely, it's tough, man. I remember being at one of the last Tinley shows that I vended, and that was when the hate, it was right after I did Venom Hunters for Discovery Channel, so the hate was like ridiculous. Like fucking the venomous people hated me. I'm like, it's fucking TV, people. Do you think it's real? Yeah. Like, do you think I'm really going to start a venom business? Do you seriously believe I'm going to start a venom business? I'm doing a television show. They are paying me to travel to Africa and Australia on Discovery Channel's dime. Why not? Why would you say no? Yeah, like there were people that I know applied for the job and got denied because I knew the production company told me about it, that would go online and say, I would never do something like that. I'd never stoop to that level. And they put in audition tapes because I saw them, the audition tapes. Funny how that works. And it's like, oh, you didn't get the job, so now you're mad at me. So now you're going to say, Brian stooped to such a low level. But my point is, one of the last shows was this guy came up to me, and the guy, so I won't say his name. But he came up to me, and I had seen horrible things he had put on Facebook about me, about Venom Hunters. Yeah. And he came up to me at Tinley and literally was like, dude, love the show on Discovery Channel. And I literally almost pulled my phone out and said, let me pull up this post right now. Is this true that you just said? And so, you know, that's the type of stuff I don't like, you know. I just be real, and I never have anyone come up to me at a show and bitch at me. They're always nice to me, and you know, whatever. It's like I've said, if you have a problem with me, I'd rather you come up and be a man and tell me you have a problem with me, and we could talk about it. We could probably figure out maybe the problem you have with me, you don't even know that it's, you know, maybe we can figure out that you were wrong, you know what I mean? Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and I need to change something. I'm a big enough man to admit that, but that doesn't happen.
I mean, what's your opinion on, like, you know, because it's one thing that I, you know, recently was like, you know, it's one thing about this fucking industry, bro. It's like there's plenty of people who love to brush shit under the rug. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm talking about people who've been in this game, you know, people who get screenshots sent, like, you know, bad business deals and all that, right? But I feel like some of that shit should be addressed on podcasts, you know, because it's everyday shit. I mean, not every day, but it's real life stuff. People get taken advantage of. People have such a love for something and get shitted on so bad that they're willing to give up. And, you know, like, but I feel like, you know, is it a problem, you know, to maybe bring some stuff like that to the table?
It's so difficult to know, you know. I mean, it's like part of me thinks that, you know, exposing bad people is great, but then you get into the tricky part about, like, is it he said, she said, who's right? Do you have the whole story? You know, so I think a little bit of tea isn't bad, you know, as long as it's not like dragging people through the dirt, you know. But you know, it's a tough one, you know. I mean, like I like a lot of things to be like, just settle with it between you two, you know. Let's not bring it to the internet, you know. You two people figure out what the fuck your problems are and move on with your life. Whereas, like, a lot of times the one guy's like, I'm gonna put all your everything you ever sent me on Instagram. I'm gonna put all your DMs online. And I'm like, you know, really, why don't you just be a man about it and man up and deal with your fucking problems? But at the flip side, you know, if there's really an issue, then I do think it should be brought up. Not like between two people, but like if there's a company, let's say, that is consistently screwing people over, you know, maybe it is something to bring up on a podcast or something like that. But things can be taken sort of context. And then I think that if you do that, at least the other person should have the opportunity to view his point too. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, it's tricky, you know. I mean, again, I'm not a guy that's big on drama per se, you know. I mean, it's but the hobby is I will say this, you know, I feel like an outsider, weirdly enough. From an outside perspective, it feels like things have gotten better, not worse. It was really bad about 5-6 years ago. I mean, like, really bad. Like, I mean, it was like, this guy hated this guy wouldn't talk to this guy was making up lies about this guy. I would never forget, I was at the Daytona Reptile show. This was, again, probably the second or third last one I did. And there was a guy that I believe is still in the business. I'm pretty sure he's still in the business. And he was set up right next to me just by happenstance. And we were friendly. You know, we weren't friends, but we were friendly. And I remember he and one other guy that I know is still in the business, that's a really good guy, by the way, had the only two of this particular mutation ball python at the show. Okay. And this kid kept going back and forth, table to table, trying to decide who to buy it from. And the guy that was next to me, I overheard with my own ears, he said, I wouldn't spend any money with that guy because he beats his wife.
Oh, God, that is so.
It's a bold accusation.
Yeah, and literally
ball pythons, right?
Ball pythons. and I know the guy that he was talking about. I know him well.
My God.
He's one of the sweetest guys in the business.
That's so fucked up.
But that's what that guy did to try to get the sale.
It's
you
dirty.
know. I mean, it's dirty as fuck, right?
Yeah.
You know,
because you're fucking with someone's livelihood. Like, it's not even that sell; it's the reputation of that person.
Yeah. Now, what if that guy believed it and started saying, "Yeah, that dude beats his wife, man"?
Or like, what if that person
just snowballs?
I mean, because here's the thing, you know, just because that person don't know nobody yet, what if that person turns into somebody and they're like, you know what? What's his name told me about this person, and that's all, you know. And that whoever's saying it could be a respected person, meaning like, what if this guy wouldn't just say that if you didn't, you know? Yeah. And that's how it all fucking starts.
No, but that was the type of stuff that really got bad, you know, in the hobby. And it sounds like it's better. I don't know, because I'm a little bit of an outsider, but it sounds like it's gotten better. And there's not as I still think there's some rifts, but I think that maybe there's not as much line. Well, this is the other thing is, right, you could get away with being a complete asshole when you had something that everyone wanted.
Right.
Now there's not really that many people that have things that other people don't have.
Right.
Right. So now you can go, well, I don't want to deal with that asshole because I can buy from this nice guy.
Right.
Right. So now the asshole has to be a little nice. Because if he continues to be an asshole, he's out of business, right?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, you know, checks and balances. I was at a point where, like, literally there were two of that snake in the building. You know, I didn't have one, but these two guys had it. now there would be 10 of those snakes, and so now most likely if this guy said that guy was a white beater, that guy would be like, well, I don't want to deal with you either. I'm going down the street to this guy over here,
Right.
So that kind of self reflect. I mean, Miguel has told me a couple of people that I don't think very fondly of the industry have straightened up a lot, is what he says. So,
Right.
And that's maybe out of greed or neglect, whatever. I still think personality trait is a personality trait,
Right. Do we have any
Super chats.
Yes.
Mr. Simpleman 123. Hope you
Simple
both
Man,
have a
my
great
man.
night. Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Yeah, he's my boy, Simple Man. You're the man.
Galaxy Reptiles. Some of the best baseball players of all time had a 300 average, meaning they still failed 7 out of 10 times.
Yep,
Just
absolutely.
following up on the argument.
Yep, no, that's 100%. That's facts right there.
It's 100%
That's
facts.
facts.
4S's Pythons. Hey, MJ, happy Father's Day, Brian. It's been a great day today. I got my first clutch of ball python eggs today.
Attaboy,
Thanks for
Kevin.
being an inspiration, guys, and sharing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. Congratulations, dude. That's fantastic. Now you're a father.
Yeah. Actually, Kevin does have a family. I think he has like
Okay.
3 daughters or something.
Oh,
like that.
well,
Shout out to
happy-
mommy, Kevin.
Happy Father's Day,
And
man.
Harry again from Cascade Critters had a question. What are Brian's thoughts on feeding ASF? Have you done it?
Yeah, I mean, I think ASFs are fine. I mean, if you can get them consistently, I used to years ago. I haven't in probably 7 or 8 years fed ASFs. But interestingly enough, I found that an animal that ate ASFs seemed to gain more weight than an animal that ate mice or rats. But my biggest problem was you couldn't buy them regularly, and so I would have to breed them, and we had pretty good success breeding them for a number of years. But just like MJ said, I found myself for a while there, I felt more like a rodent breeder than a reptile breeder, so I got rid of all that stuff, and thankfully I don't have any ball pythons that don't eat rats or mice. And I don't mind when a ball python goes off food. So I think if ball python's off food for 3 or 4 months, ASFs will oftentimes get them back onto food, right? But I don't really worry about that because they'll always go back onto food. I've never had a ball python starve to death ever.
And then our buddy Josh. Thanks for everything, you two.
Thank you, Josh.
Josh
We
who?
appreciate it.
Josh
Hello.
Bell? Oh, what's up,
Oh, Josh, what's
My
up?
boy.
He's here
up,
today, Josh. Man, we were talking some shit about you after you left, though, Josh, man.
Fuck, bro.
You should have heard the
Jesus.
shit MJ was saying about you, man. MJ was going off.
Whatever.
No. I'm just kidding. He's saying you suck at hockey.
Yeah,
you know.
bro. I heard you can't even skate.
Yeah, he said you're terrible, man. He said your brownies are
Kid can't even
shit.
read.
He said your brownies hardly even get them high.
Yeah, I heard you made CBD brownies for everyone.
Yeah,
Right on.
yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
felt it.
Yeah,
I'm
everyone.
just kidding.
Oh my God, I maybe I shouldn't say that publicly, but he killed some of my employees.
Oh my, yeah, I heard you floored him, dude. Jesus
Yeah, I mean,
Christ.
Noah hasn't been the same since. Where do you think that fucking mustache came from? Yeah,
Bro,
mustache came-
changed his life.
yeah, as soon as he ate that brownie, that mustache just popped up.
That is so fucking funny. Any more? Matt?
Nope, that's
Okay.
it.
All right. So I have a wrap up question for you,
Yeah.
Brian, before we get into the hot seat questions.
Yeah,
Now I'll tell you what. This is somebody that also told me in the beginning, because ball pythons was my huge passion in the beginning. But then when I was thinking long term, I was like, ball pythons got a little bit overwhelming because I wanted to work with all the cool shit, but so much cool shit to work
Yeah.
with, right?
Yeah.
And then I got introduced to chondros, emeralds, mangroves. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I got spread thin in the beginning, but I also got so many people saying, "Oh man, you shouldn't work with so much. You should just concentrate on one thing." And I'm talking to somebody who works with, dude, you've had a handful of experiences with multiple different clutches. But that's the thing, man. People get into ball pythons and they instantly fall in love with, another species and stuff.
Yeah.
But what would you say the right approach is to somebody who's just getting into, like, let's just say the ball python game, and they just have a passion and a heat to work with something else, but don't want to overdo it?
Yeah, it's tough. I think that there's 2 ways of looking at how you can do things. You can be really macro, where you're like really macro focused on one species and maybe even one type of, like orange dream or clown or whatever, tri-stripe or whatever it is. So you can be really macro focused, or you can be much more, like all over the place. I believe in diversification. I think that that's always worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think we counted recently just out of whatever, and I think we have 247 species of animals that we work with here. So like
47, bro.
yeah, so I've always worked with lots of different things, and kind of what that does is it insulates you from market fluctuations, right? So if you're working with corn snakes and ball pythons and hognose snakes and Honduran milk snakes and green tree pythons and emerald tree boas or whatever the case is, there's always going to be a market that's popping, right? And when something kind of comes down a little bit, you're already into something else because you've already been doing it, you know, and you'll see the ebbs and flows of markets. You know, ball pythons get hot, then they cool off, then they get hot, then they cool off. Colubrids get hot, get cool off, and so on like that. And so you just kind of ride all those waves and you're always good. That being said, diversification isn't for everybody because it's difficult. You know, you have to be really, like you said, you can be very spread thin if you're all over the place. So I think it's each his own is basically what it's going to come down to. But I think you can be successful either way. Just make sure you define. What you don't want to do is be undefined and just be willy-nilly about it. Like, oh, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to buy that and I'm going to buy this and not have a plan, you know, and make sure you understand, like I have a colubrid room. I have a gecko room. I have a ball python room. I have, you know, so I can provide different environments. You can't breed a corn snake and a ball python in the same room usually successfully, right? So you got to make sure that you know what species you're going to work with and have a plan.
Have a plan.
Yep,
Yeah.
plan.
Damn. Okay, my last question. I'm sorry, I had just remembered this.
Yeah, no, go ahead, man.
But Snake Master Exotics, Ariana, she loves you.
Mm-hmm.
Huge fan. Socrates'
awesome.
daughter, right?
She's awesome.
She lost her mind when you followed her.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
she was obsessed.
I like every post she posts.
The kid has a legit passion for what she wants to
awesome.
do. And, you know, you can kind of tell that, you know, when just with the way they talk about animals and stuff like that, you know, and that being said, there's a lot of, you know, parents who have kids with accounts and stuff, and they want to push that. But do you feel like you got to be careful with that? Or like, what do you really think about that? You know,
it's a tough one, right? Because, you know, the social media is a really brutal world, man. You know what I mean? And do you want to expose a young girl or boy, for that matter, to that type of scrutiny? You know, I mean, and you know, listen, you know, it's a really tough thing because, so recently there was a poll of under 16-year-old boys and girls, what they would, their 1 through 10, what they'd want to do with their life the most, right? Number 1 was YouTuber. Number 2 was TikToker. Number 3 was Instagram.
Oh my God.
And so we got down to number 7 or 8 before you got into astronaut, engineers, doctors.
Which used to be the
That's
fucking
all I wanted
first
to do was
thing.
an astronaut.
Yeah.
WWF.
Well, back in the 70s, which I know that's too early for you, but back in the 70s, the number 1 answer was astronaut.
Yeah.
In China, the number 1 answer is astronaut.
Wow.
Okay. Right now, YouTube. So my point is that kids really want to be social media stars. You know what I mean? I mean, when I go to a school event, let's say, which we don't do that many now because of COVID, but when we do, and it's starting to open up now, so we will again in the fall, I really hope so. Or I go to a birthday party, oftentimes the kids are more enamored, or I shouldn't say enamored, it gives me a heads up, or a leg up, I should say, because I'm a YouTuber.
Right.
So they'll be like, oh my God, you work with Mr. Beast, or oh my gosh, you know David Dobrik. So now I can use that to go like, now let's learn about reptiles, because they're like, that's the cool guy. That's you know what I mean? Yep. So part of me is like, you know, if I had a young child, would I allow them to do social media? It would be a really tough question because, you know, listen, like I don't know Charlie D'Amelio, but I am good friends with people that know Charlie D'Amelio, and she's the like #1 TikToker, right? Right. So she went from 1 million followers to over 100 million in 1 year, right? And now she's like huge. A lot of people think that D'Amelios, the entire family, because the entire family, the parents, the sister, everybody is huge on all social media, are probably the next Kardashians. Wow. But I happen to know people that know Charlie D'Amelio, and she says she's more miserable than ever. I bet. Like, you know, because she's, you know, all of that pressure and stress that brings on. Now, that girl may never see that success, you know, and that may be good or bad. So part of me is like, wow, what a leg up if she gets going. The chances are that where she's at, how old is she?
She's 6. Okay.
Chances are now that she's 6, when she's 16, is she going to care about the content that's going on when she's 6, 7, 8, 9? Probably not, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a girl, ironically enough, her dad worked for me, that it was called Snake Hunters TV. Yeah. Remember? Mm-hmm. And she blew up on YouTube. You know, she was getting videos where she was like 13, 14 years old, something like that. And her videos were getting 100,000, 200 million. She was on, you know, Little Big Shot Kids show with, you know, out in LA. They flew her out there, and Reptiles and all that stuff. And then she hit about 16, 17 and she like cut it off. She's like, I hate all of this. I don't want to be
And
this.
that happens a lot.
I don't want to be it. So it's a tough thing. I'm not saying, I think I would probably be okay if I really monitored it.
Right.
And then you have to, and I'm just talking, I'm not talking about the fucking perverts out there.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like the stress that puts on a young child of like, how many likes do I have? Why is this one not getting more likes than this one? Why am I, it's a tough mechanism to do. And then you got the predators that you have to really be careful of, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think that's, I'll be honest with you. I think I've been saying this, my livelihood is social media, right? I mean, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, brand deal integrations, merchandising. That's where it pays all my bills, right? And enables my life. It's not a healthy life, dude.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy life to wake up every morning and wondering if your video is going to do well today, or wondering when you post something on Instagram. I just recently went through what I was doing. January 1st, I said, I'm going to work on Instagram this year. That's my goal. Instagram is my focus this year. I mean, I'm going to focus on everything else, but I really want to grow Instagram because all of last year, I gained 10,000 followers on Instagram. All of last year. So I got to like 460,000 followers in like 2 years and then gained 10,000 followers. Got to 270, right? And so I was like, this year I'm going to really crush. So I started January 1st, literally January 1st, I started going. And we were doing great. We gained like 80,000 followers the first 3 months, right? 80,000 followers the first 3 months after only 10,000 the whole previous year. And then it died. It died. I mean, like died. I was gaining 1,000, 2,000, sometimes 4,000 followers a day. All of a sudden, I'm going backwards 200 followers a day. And this lasted for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like for a month and a half, every day I'm like minus 119, one and minus one. It's like mentally it starts messing with you. And then literally yesterday, the day before, just some things popped. I've gained 12,000 followers in the last 2 days. But I'm a 51-year-old man.
Right.
What does that do to a 6-year-old girl?
No shit.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I love it, and I encourage her, and I'm inspired by her, and I want her to do well. But it concerns me about just if she's able to handle it, and her parents are really grounded and can keep her in it, then I think it's great.
Her dad's grounded stuff.
Yeah,
probably one of the best dads I've ever seen.
So there you go. I mean, I think parenting is a huge part of that whole thing.
And I'm glad you brought that up because everything you're saying is true, but the biggest fucking key is the parenting.
Yeah.
Like you being the parent is what matters.
Yeah.
Not
and
having
trying to instill the fact that, hey, if you get 10,000 likes on this video, but you get 200 on this one, don't feel that defines who you are.
Right.
Because that's what social does. Is that it makes you feel like, okay, am I a lesser person because I'm getting less following now?
Right.
You know what I mean? It starts messing with your mind, and I'm an adult.
Right.
So you have to, and that's why you can opt out of likes on Instagram now.
Right.
You can opt out
with no like. You can just post.
Yeah, just like and people can't like it. You don't see your likes.
Huh.
You can opt out. And that's why Facebook did that.
Right, a smart mental thing. Like fuck, just post. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just have fun.
That's what Gary Vee says, right? He says, don't worry about following. Don't look at views. Just do what you do.
Shout out to Gary Vee, man. That's another big inspiration of mine, Gary Vee.
I agree,
just
man.
because he says fuck every single sentence.
Yeah, well, I love Gary Vee. And I hope, one of my goals is to get on his podcast. And I worked hard to get on Rogan's, but that isn't going to ever happen now. But
why? Because he's not a snake guy?
Not Snake Guy, yeah. And I used to know the booker for his show.
Oh, really?
So a guy, I was on the guy that booked every Joe Rogan show up until about a year ago. I was on his podcast because he watched my blog. And he tried to get me on Joe Rogan like 10 times, and Joe always said he didn't like snakes. He didn't want to be on it. So so I'm just like, I've met Joe twice, by the way. Super sweet guy, really nice person, unbelievably amazing. Couldn't be more gracious in person. But yeah, no, I won't be on Joe. But I do want to get on Gary Vee's podcast. That would be really cool. And I do have a kind of in with that. So maybe when life returns to real normal and Gary's back to doing normal stuff, maybe I'll get on his podcast.
Fuck yeah. Hot seat questions, you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Hot seat questions for Barczyk, man. This is going to be amazing. All right, Brian. So listen, JP's failed at this big time because I asked him, don't explain anything, just give me the answer. Yeah. And he was fucking explaining every answer. And I don't think you're going to have that problem, but just go ahead and hit me with what you prefer. Hot seat questions coming in hot for Barczyk. Frozen thought or live?
Live.
Egg cut or no cut?
Egg cut.
Big flexor or no flexor?
Say that again.
Big flexor or no flexor?
I explain it. I don't even know what that means.
So you like to flex, like you like to show things off, or you not like to show
I'm
things
not
off?
a flexor at all.
Okay.
And
Sport?
sorry, that was bad on me.
No, you're good. Sports or no sports?
Sports.
Okay. Baseball or football?
I'm sorry. I'm going to take a second. Football.
Okay. Steak or fish?
Steak.
Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Van Halen.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
That's the
about.
right answer.
Eminem or Machine Gun Kelly?
Machine Gun Kelly. I have some personal things with Eminem that I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, but
All right.
and I love Machine Gun Kelly. So yeah.
West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
Oh, God, East Coast.
Vegas with Miguel or Vegas without Miguel?
With Miguel.
Okay, just respect. Little word association. First thing to come to mind: milk,
Tits.
cocoa.
Tits. Okay.
Substrate.
So was it? Cocoa fiber.
Stuck shed.
Soap.
Day 52.
Ooh. 3 more days till cutting.
All right. Instagram trolls.
Fuck them.
One has to go forever. I'm pretty sure we all know this one, but forever, ever. Instagram or Facebook? Which one?
Facebook goes.
And there you have it, man.
And I'm sorry, Facebook. I love you because we're doing something on Facebook next week. So stay tuned.
I don't love you, Facebook, so go fuck yourself. I'm just kidding. Dude, Brian, thank you so much. This has been probably, not only one of the best fucking one-on-one sessions I've had, but just to be remotely here with you.
That's awesome, man.
It's honestly a dream come true. And I can tell you right now, I'm not the only one who feels this inspired by you. You have so many people out there who are inspired by you
Thank you.
all the time. So what do you have to say to everyone who does fuck with you, who does support you, and who love seeing you every day?
Well, I mean, it's really simple, really. I am not anything without each of you, period. I mean, I can't live my dreams. I can't fulfill my dreams. I can't do the things I do without each one of you, no matter how big, small, or whatever it is. Whether you comment, you don't comment, you like, you don't like, you super chat, you don't super chat, whatever it is, each one of you means everything to me. And without each one of you, no matter how little you may think you have influence on me, you do have influence on me, and I appreciate you.
Yep. And I appreciate you too. Matt appreciates you. And I'm going to tell you, come over here, Matt. Come on, come say hi real quick.
Yeah,
my boy, Matt Summers. Make sure you follow my man, MS Reptiles. He's right here in the building. He will be with me at all my remote shows. This is the man. So make sure you follow him, okay? And I will say.
He's a great fluffer too.
Oh, goddamn right he is. I don't need any coffee.
Too bad that time.
Yeah. I've been rocking hard the whole time.
But guys, have a good night. And if I recommend one thing, come to the Reptarium. I'm telling you right now. Come to the Reptarium and you will have the time of your life, and just be ready to see some amazing animals and to see one of the cleanest, sickest reptile collections in the United States, if not the world, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Brian, so much.
Brother. I appreciate it, man.
Have a good night, guys.
See you guys. See ya.
Cheese.
Peace.